Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Snarp Fangle Podcast. Welcome back to episode 54, by the way. I'm your host, Jake Metzger, your ladies' man, as well as the main financial contributor, reportedly, to the rsdb.org. And if you know what that is, if you don't know, feel free to look it up. Again, it's rsdb.org. This man, ladies and gentlemen, his name is my co-host, David Reed.
Hey!
How you doing, David?
Oh, I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm not feeling quite as Italian as you, but...
Moving on. For comments, concerns, thoughts, and hate mail, send anything and everything within reason. We don't take too kindly to the furry folk. I like computers, and I'm very much into computers, but I don't like to dress up and want to, ding-dong one. So if you have anything interesting, send them our way to snarpfanglepod@gmail.com.
For those of you who...
Or you can just text Jake.
Yeah, for those of you who didn't understand any of that, that's snarpfanglepod@gmail.com.
Thank you so much, David. It's going to be hard doing that whole voice throughout the show. So, not today. Maybe another day. Maybe if we do Sopranos peak analysis, that'd be the next time I do that voice. So, anyway, continuing on. Well, David, how's your Monday going? We're recording on a Monday, releasing on Wednesday. How are you doing?
Fine, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday. Let me tell you, I was on the phone for an hour with a financial person about retirement, setting up a couple different things. So that was fun. She was pleasant to talk to. She was very kind and considerate. So it's nice when you get that customer service. So anyway, but yeah, I'm doing good. Ready to record. And for those who are unaware, today we are doing I'm trying really hard not to go back into that voice. I feel it in me. It's like the inner Italian that is like at 0.1% of my bloodlines trying to come out, David. And I'm stopping it. I'm guarding my heart, or my mind, as they say, guarding my tongue. All right. So anyway, welcome to yet another episode of the Snarp Fangle Podcast. Today, we're doing a Q&A. We're going to catch up a little bit with Jake and David and see what they got going on, and seeing what actually you, the audience, have gotten going on, answering your questions. So thank you very much for all those writing in, and thank you all of you out there for listening. And I'd like to recommend, if you want to see another episode of Catching Up with Jake and David, I would like to recommend the first one we did, where we just talked about whatever and caught up with Mr. David and Mr. Jake in our lives. You can find it on our Snarp Fangle YouTube page. So, you ready for some questions, David?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, thank you, everybody, who wrote in. Again, you can email us at snarpfanglepod@gmail.com, or you can just text me if you have my number. I'm not going to give it out live. So, those who have it, you're lucky.
The lucky few.
The lucky few. I don't know how many contacts do you have in your phone, David?
I have no idea.
I'm going to check my phone right now. How many contacts do I have just throughout the years?
I mean, I have plenty of contacts in my phone that are like just completely defunct.
Same.
People whose numbers changed a long time ago, and I have no intention of ever talking to them ever again. So, the number is rather meaningless.
Yeah, you, oh God, this is terrible, but, well, not yet, but we'll get to the terrible. So I have, at the very bottom of my list, under Z, I have ZCSL20, Jimmy, Leon, and Raphael, all separate numbers. Those were just students that I was in a group project with in one class called CSL20. I think it's College Life and Success. And those were my partners in that class, plus another one, which I think was named CJ, the Italian computer guy, is what I wrote down in my phone. So, and shout out to Tom, who's called Tom the Jew in my phone. So, anyway, it doesn't give me a total, unfortunately. Oh, here we go, 286. That's a lot. It's too much.
Is it?
I need to delete some people. Also, there's one that's called Mystery Person here.
I have a feeling that there's a lot of people who would say those are rookie numbers.
Yeah, I texted this random, I think it was a switching over. I think it was like Michael's old number or something. And I texted, I'll be praying for you, brother. Thanks for the update. And then they text back, who is this again? I'm like, oh, sorry, it's Jake. Wrong number. And they're like, oh, are you Justin's friend? I'm like, which Justin? Taylor? No, I believe you got the wrong number, pal.
Oh, boy.
And then I'm like, hey, have a good day. And he's like, yeah, you too. And so I wrote down Mystery Person as a contact.
Mystery person.
Yeah, Mystery Person. But the people writing in are not mysteries. They might be those to those listening, but not to us. So we want to thank you again for writing in. Okay, David,
Some of them are a mystery to me.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them are
correct.
people that you know that I don't.
That is very true. So you don't know Lexi, for example.
Yeah.
She just does. She's very random.
Yeah, your sister. I definitely never
Definitely
met her.
never met her. Yes. So, in fact, I don't think you ever did a podcast with her at all.
Nope.
Not at all.
And you certainly can't look up an episode entitled Video Game Soundtracks and find proof to the contrary. You certainly won't find that.
Yeah. If you guys want to find out our top 5 individual lists of video game soundtracks of all time, you get mine, David's, and Lexi's. Head on over. I think it's episode 9 or 10 of the Snarp Fangle podcast. So
I feel, that
is
feels
it 9?
like
I think
it
it's 9.
feels like such a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, I think she was 10. I think because we had
She
Justin
was
on.
10.
Yeah,
10.
like she was on episode 10, and then Justin's 20. Justin, we had on episode 20. I was like the first one without me on the fires, and then you're like, all right, I had no idea that if you were going to do the podcast or not that week. I think it was in Fresno or something, and then randomly I get updated, Justin, and I was like, God's great, beer's good, and people are crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, shout out to Lexi and Justin. But we're going to start out, David, with Katie wrote in. How did you come up with the name Snarp Fangle? Well, Katie, she has 2 questions here. This first one, I would just have to say real simply that it was a name of a sound effect audio file on David's computer here where we're recording. And it was called Biddly Bop Snarp Fangle or Snarp Fangle hat something on a drum.
Are you sure?
You could turn around.
Was it on there?
Yeah. Turn around.
I thought it must have been on the church computer.
No.
Because I had
wait, you're right.
I had a whole series of recordings. There were different tracks of a recording project that I did at the church. And so I had the files on the desktop just like of the different tracks. So they're all named Snarp Fangle blah blah blah.
It was
like,
the church then.
Yeah.
The church computer.
And yeah, it was interesting so you noticed that and decided without telling me about it that's what you were going to call the podcast. And then we did the first episode, or I don't know if it was the first episode or it was like the test episode we did.
The first episode.
It was the first
test
episode
was dated for like January. And then in February, we did a second recording, and then the third recording. That third recording we did, that was the first official episode.
Was that so that was where you called it the
Snarp Fangle.
You called it Snarp Fangle while we were recording it, and I remember it's like, wait, that's what we're calling it? What? Okay.
And and episode 1, I said, welcome to yet another episode of Snarp Fangle Podcast. And so like they wouldn't even know. They just are in for another week.
It's like 1984.
Exactly. Or 1999.
No, like the novel.
The novel. Okay, sorry.
Like, the party's always been in power.
We've
always been at war with Oceania, Snarp Fangle has always been on YouTube.
We've always been on YouTube, exactly. So yeah, Katie, I was writing the script. I was working on Zoom, and I was writing the script at work, and then I came home, worked online, and I was writing the script for fandoms, and I said, crap, what am I going to call this thing? I'm like, Snarp Fangle. I remember seeing that on the computer, David's sound effect. That's a weird name. That means has no meaning. Let's just do that. So this podcast theme will be at no meaning. And there you go. That's the origin of the name. So
yeah, it's literally a nonsense word that I made up.
Yeah.
Because I make up nonsense words to call files that I use for my own personal, that I'm not sending to other people. And Jake just so happened to catch a glimpse into my creative process.
Yeah, I remember seeing Cracker Oil and Cocoa Finagles and
all sorts
Google
of
berries.
things.
You know, he just names his sound effects like that. So thank you, David, for coming up with the name unintentionally of Snarp Fangle. And then I went and stole that from you. So, or excuse me, I was inspired by your work, you know.
Yes.
When can we get the album, David? That will be eventually released.
Oh, it's in the pipeline. It's in the pipeline.
That's all I need to know. All right.
It's gonna be What's
the name? What's the name? I mean, we have Snarp Fangle, a podcast.
I had something, and then it just went bloop. Just went out of my head. I was gonna do like epic rap battles of something, but then the
epic rap battles of retardation is what you should call it.
There we go.
There we go. That's the name.
That's
all right.
the name.
All right. Guest track by me, maybe not. I'm a little too retarded for that kind of stuff. So. Anyway, Katie, you also wrote in why. That's all she asked. Why are your names Jake and David? Simple answer. Because our mothers called us that. Long answer. I can go into the long answer. David, do you have a long answer?
No.
Okay.
I'm just, as far as I know,
it's been David.
I never asked her why she named me that, to be honest. The only thing I know for sure is that, she chose biblical names specifically for my first and middle name. But other than the actual reason behind choosing those specific ones, no clue.
David James Reed, I think, right?
Yeah, James. Yeah, James. That's my middle name.
Long answer.
It's actually Jimothy. Jimothy. David Jimothy.
I feel like Nick's brother should be named Jimothy at some point. If we eventually get James on, we should call him Jimothy. Oh, dear Jimothy. Anyway, long answer for mine was my actual name's Robert. So how did we get to Jake? Let me explain. Robert's my father's name. So I was named after my dad. And then nobody wanted to say Robert or Bob because that would confuse it with my dad. So they were like, my grandma wanted to say Robbie, so she tried to get that to catch on. It did not, because we but used a name that was also in the family. So Jake's actually the name of my two great grandfathers. My mother's grandfather and my father's grandfather was named Jake. Both were heavy alcoholics, so I think it was been an improvement. Anyway, no, I love my family. I love, hey, without those great grandfathers, I wouldn't be here. So I have a lot to thank for them. So thank you guys. You're awesome. Wherever you are, probably in heaven, hopefully. Fingers crossed. All right. Anyway, Kobe writes in, shout out to you, Kobe. Oh, and by the way, thank you, Katie, for writing in. Kobe writes in, what is your favorite memory working at your jobs? Oh man, I'm gonna have to think about this. Come back to me, David. Do you have anything?
Let's see. Favorite memory at a job.
Did a toilet explode and you got to watch it? Somebody else explode?
I mean, at my current job, I like my coworkers at my current job, so there's been some good times, some good memories. Let's see, favorite.
A tough one, because I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of the jobs I've had, the days. What was the question again? It's what is your favorite memory? So it doesn't necessarily have to be I guess it has to be a good one because it's favorite. I'm trying to think.
Yeah. It's hard for me to say because most of
work is work.
Well, also the times I've enjoyed most at work have probably just been moments where, I was laughing my butt off. But the moments where I'm laughing my butt off were moments that me and my coworkers were laughing or making fun of people. And one of them involves
oh no.
one of them just random things. One of them involved like somebody was trying to make fun of somebody else. Because we saw a guy, I think he had like Down syndrome or something.
Oh, God.
I don't know him. He was
you don't know. Okay,
it
he
was
could
just
have.
he was just a patron at the casino, and he had, they have that kind of face that like
They
no,
do.
No,
No, I get you. I get you. They do. No.
But so somebody
That's the truth,
else,
guys.
somebody else was making fun of somebody else.
How dare they?
And trying to say that this guy with Down syndrome was his brother. And I wasn't part of that. And then, but I did happen to see the guy.
Okay.
And then one day, like this was like a week later, somebody mentioned so-and-so's brother. And then that guy's Down syndrome face just popped into my head for whatever reason. Like I had nothing to do with the trying to call
trying to call out or
make fun of the guy with Down syndrome, or call the other guy, say that was his brother or anything. But for whatever reason, I work at 3 a.m, so sometimes my brain gets a little weird, and so somebody mentioned so-and-so's brother, and then just out of nowhere in my brain, I just saw a mental picture of that Down syndrome guy face, and it was such a random thing. I just burst out laughing, and it caused everyone else to burst out laughing, and we just had a moment, and it wasn't, I don't even know this guy. It was just literally because his face, for whatever reason, just happened to pop into my head at a random moment when I was like tired and sleep deprived, and I just started laughing out loud. Thank God there was like nobody around except my coworkers, because I would have seemed like a crazy person.
Yeah.
I mean, I am a crazy person, but I would have seemed like even more of a crazy person.
Let's see. My answer would probably, okay, so I'm going to pick the job I worked with you, Kobe, because me and Kobe worked together. He was a old coworker of mine. And I would have to say that semester, couple semesters, me and him and Garrett worked together. I thought that was pretty fun because we got to know each other a little bit. There were some hard times we all went through that semester and supported each other through it. And now then we go in our separate ways, and we still keep in touch from time to time. So I'd say it would be those 2 semesters working with Kobe and Garrett. So there's some stuff at the store maybe working with, I think it's more like it boils down to working with different people is what my answer would probably be. So I'm going to go with that. So shout out to you, Kobe, and Garrett as well. So anyway, next question. Lexi wrote in and says, what video game fueled your inspiration to do something? Art-wise, video editing, writing, or even music composition? Oh man, this is an interesting one. I'm gonna have to say probably Super Smash Brothers, because I actually did a video, an edit of Super Smash Brothers, which is I have a funny story about, which is my sister Chelsea, who's been on before, the anime, the Weeb, Chelsea the Weeb, made a video. Well, actually, it goes even further back. Pardon me. Bear with me, David. It's a little bit of a long inspiration, but I sat down when I was like a teenager to play Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and I was listening to a Barlow Girl song of all things on my iPod. I sat down and started the opening of Brawl, and that song was playing as I was listening to it, and it went exactly to the beat, and it was the same BPM as the opening of Super Smash Bros. Brawl. It was very random, but I was like, dude, this song goes super well with it, not just because of the BPM, but what they're talking about, and it goes along with all the characters and everything. And so anyway, that led to Chelsea making an edit in Windows Movie Maker of all things back in the day. And she paired the opening with that. I then years later grabbed that, up-resed it, got HD footage, and then the song actually went longer than the opening, so I continued the edit with different Smash Bros. Footage. And it's hype. I'd highly recommend you go look it up on my YouTube channel, or type in Come Alive Super Smash Bros. Edit. If you want to search it up on YouTube, it'll come up. It's like a black and white thumbnail, and dude, it slaps. Not gonna lie. I'd be super biased, but if you're a Smash Bros. Fan, you gotta watch that. So anyway, that's my answer. What about you, David?
Video game that inspired me to create something.
Yeah.
Let's see.
the Halo music to write worship music.
I mean, honestly, I was going to say Halo 2, the soundtrack, like really, really informed my, or I should say, helped to inform my musical sensibilities when I was growing up. So it's definitely influenced the way I create, I think, because I spent so much time playing it and spent so much time. I frankly just would play like the last mission, like just so it'd get to the credits, and then I'd just sit and like listen to the soundtrack as the credits rolled, you know?
That's cool.
So
that's what's up. I know the most notable section of that game in terms of music. I mean, not gonna lie, probably people would go with that Breaking Benjamin song in the next to last level, where I think it's, I can't remember what level it was. It's not Floodgate, that's Halo 3, the really long one that everybody hates in Halo 2. Gravemind. That was Mission Gravemind. And they have the Breaking Benjamin song start playing as the brutes and elites start fighting each other. But no, I get what you're saying. That last mission with the Arbiter and him working with Johnson and Miranda, like, there's some fantastic music.
My favorite one actually was the music that starts playing when you get up to the top of the building and you're just about to jump onto the Scarab to take it down.
Oh yeah, in the
in the credits there's a different version of it. It's a little more epic sounding. It's got Steve Vai on guitar.
Yeah.
It's that one was one where I would like that when it came to that part in the credits, I'd be like, okay, yeah, this is my jam.
Yeah, shout out to Marty O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore. Those guys, especially what they did with the Halo 1 soundtrack, it's just magic. Like, they captured something that can never be it can be replicated, but it'll never be replicated in that way or in that moment.
Yeah, it was a singular moment for sure.
Yeah, so that would be our answer. All right, well, thank you, Lexi. Blaine wrote it. You ready, David?
Okay.
Native American tier list.
He misspelled tier.
Yeah, I know.
So immediately when I wrote I thought of that old commercial with the Italian actor playing a Native American chief that's like, it was about like pollution or whatever, and he like cries the single tear.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's terrible and cringy. But I mean, it definitely tops the list of Native American teary moments for me.
Okay, well,
because the only other option would be the Trail of Tears.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's that's pretty depressing.
Yeah, I did absolutely zero research on this, Blaine. So I'm gonna say any Native American tribe outside of California is what I will say as my answer.
What does that mean?
Any Native American tribe that is originated outside of California, so I don't offend any of the ones that live really close by.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sure there was some somewhere else. So.
I mean, I've met some cool Native people.
Yeah, me too. I'm not gonna lie, like they're cool.
But
I'm
not gonna make a tier list of them.
Yeah, it's like making a race list. It's like, who's top, who's bottom? It's like, no, thank you. So,
well, I mean,
no, David.
I have had quite a few Native coworkers simply because I work at an Indian casino.
Yeah.
So I guess I could make a tier list of them, rank them from top to bottom, and like how much I enjoyed working with them. Okay. But I'm not going to do that because that would be pretty effed up.
Okay, whatever. This is going to sound really insensitive, but whichever one that was in, oh my God, what was that movie? The one with Kevin Costner.
I don't
Dances with Wolves, whatever that tribe was, that's the top one right there. The peaceful tribe, you know.
Turns out they were actually played by Italians too.
All right, well, thanks, Blaine, for writing in. All right, Steve wrote in. He has a few questions here, and let's do it. So, AI. How can we use AI to our benefit, and what to be wary of with AI? Well,
Weary or wary?
I think it's wary. W-A-R-Y.
Okay, yes. Weary would mean tired.
Weary. Okay, so wary. To our benefit? Well, Steve is actually my Uncle Steve. I'm going to have to say how to use it to our benefit. I mean, that's like, I would say super analyzing the history of everything in the internet and just making repositories. Like, I would love to have my own personal AI go through all of my movies and organize them accordingly and just do the menial tasks, like organizing my music, organizing my movies, organization in general. Like all my games, categorize them, make all my MP4s, translate them and name them according to how Plex sees it. 'Cause that's super tedious, like just tedium work that I could use my time better spent on other things. But that's in the short term. Long term, man, I don't know. I don't really have an answer for that. And to be weary of, well, just be really careful about letting it think for itself. Don't even let it think for itself, probably. So, anyway, David, what do you got?
Let's see. AI. Let's see. Using for our benefit. That's a hard question.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's definitely good that can be done, but there's a lot of downsides to it too. AI is one of those things that I'm like, it doesn't necessarily make human life any better necessarily. It
not in a major way, I would say.
It makes it more complicated.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Is there's uses for it, but there's also things where I'm like, So overall, I'm pretty ambivalent on AI in general. Yeah, like I think I agree with you. The best use of AI is just basically, doing menial stuff that like human time is, would be better used elsewhere, is what I would say. And that would be great as long as we can like not also enter an age of like AI generated slop. And
it's too easy to go that way.
Just like basically polluting discourse, polluting information, polluting creative arts, kind of a thing. There's a big risk of that with AI, I think. Just generally adding to the noise. So as long as we can avoid that future, AI is definitely will have its uses.
Yeah, I think in the way it's going to be done in the future is anything creative in terms of film, music, well, maybe not music, but anything associated with film, anything associated with anything majorly creative in the creative industries like Hollywood. It's not going to be a huge part, I think, just in the creative process. I mean, you could have it paint a picture, but I feel like there's more value when a human paints it itself, obviously. I think it's interesting when you think of like for example, Grok 3 it came out on X, on Twitter, and it's Elon's AI thing you can go and access now. It's really impressive and pretty cool. But I'm curious to see what the back-end AI does, specifically detecting other like bots and other AI that might be slipping through the cracks in Twitter or posting random stuff on there. it makes me also think of, what if the AI on Facebook tries to infiltrate Twitter, and then there's like a war in the server room in the data center or whatever, where the AI is trying to snuff out the AI that infiltrated? Because I feel like that's probably where cyber warfare is headed. It's going to be China's AI versus America's AI, and it's going to depend on who can get to it first of basically breaking down a country. Can you imagine like a very broken, very 20 years ago country technologically, like maybe somewhere in the Pacific country that has an old setup? Imagine how easy it would be for an AI to go in and just infiltrate all the databases and extract anything it wants. The only thing I can think of is if it's based off hard drives and not solid state storage, which I know is a lot of tech jargon, but you got to think of these things, because say that could slow down our AI when it's trying to infiltrate other things. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole idea of AI is like infiltrating stuff. That sounds like spy fantasy garbage to me. not to necessarily sound derisive.
Yeah.
But my major concern with AI is just general pollution of
the internet,
of the culture of the internet.
Yeah, the way
with just crappy content, crappy information, just crap.
Yeah, crap. Yeah. I think it'd be cool to be like, that personal assistant fantasy, which some programmers out there I know already have, where they're like, hey, go ahead and copy everything from last year to this year, including birthdays and blah, 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 and set it up that way, which you can already do if you do some manual tasks on Google Calendar, for example. But to just speak to it and have it do it would be kind of cool, and for it to get more accurate in that sense. Also be like, hey, set a timer for this, which we already have with Alexa, but to be like, hey, here's a really long expose of something I have to do next week. Can you remind me the 2 days before? And it'll just make that up. And you said, okay, what do you want to say? And then you say it, and then it'll speak it back to you in case you get anything wrong. I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but I think that'd be kind of cool. But speaking of spyware and all kinds of stuff, David, makes me think of what they're going to find in the CIA and FBI stuff since, leadership's changed, like what kind of crazy stuff they got going on in those servers,
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they've got some juicy stuff in there.
And speaking of politics, let's get into it, because Uncle Steve then asks, Trump's first month. Is he keeping his promises? What are the themes of his actions? How is Trump shaping the relationships in North America and North Atlantic and with Europe relationships? David, I'm going to let you start us off.
I would say first month, promises kept for sure. Yeah, he's doing exactly what I hoped he'd do when he got into office. And I was just, I was perusing the news not too long ago, earlier today, and I guess a new poll, and of course, polls are polls, but this poll suggested, and they polled both people who identified as Democrats, as Republicans, and also as independents, and actually broke those down by percentage. And it turns out that Trump's policies as so far are wildly popular with Americans. Like there's no Trump voting regret happening.
Yeah, I like to look at it also in terms of how much work he's putting in. When you look at it, it's been a month. Dude, this guy's got a lot of crap done. Like, yeah, it's through executive orders and stuff, but that's been established from the Obama era of these the amount of executive orders is what I'm referring to. And to have that be repeated with Biden as well as Trump's first term, but to get the insane, not only same amount, but the effectiveness of them as well. And how much he has gotten done and how much Elon has gotten done. Now, I get it. There's controversy, Trump's Trump, Elon's Elon, they're buddy too. And people are having issues with that, especially in the conservative space for some reason I haven't really fully dived into. But you can't say they're not getting stuff done, and you can't say they're being lazy. it's really interesting to see kind of a Trump presidency with the what's it called? The barriers removed, per se. You know, I feel like it's only going to get even more crazy and more interesting as we go along.
Well, I hope things don't get more crazy.
Yeah, maybe not more crazy, more like
I'm hoping for things to get more boring.
Yeah,
I would like
nice.
some more boringness.
Yeah.
Because right now what's happening...
It's a transitionary
What
right
he's
now.
doing right now is necessary stuff. Stuff that, you know, it's stupid that it's necessary, but a lot of it is necessary what he's doing. But yeah, my hope is that he can get all the necessary stuff sorted out quickly so that we can get back on track to, you know, having life being a little bit less bizarre, less wild, less out there. Just, you know, let's get back to boring.
Yeah, back to boring sounds pretty good to me. You know, I know there's some major shifts people are concerned about, like maybe the liquidation of the IRS and the creation of the ERS, the External Revenue Service. With tariffs.
I'm not worried about the liquidation
well, I'm
of the
just saying
IRS.
there's some people out there concerned about that. And I don't know. I'm not an economist. I can't tell you what. But I'll tell you what I am interested in. Dude, have you seen the Doge counter on the National Debt Counter website thingy? Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Dude, it's crazy. In 2 to 3 weeks, they've already saved the government $110 billion. $110 billion in like 20 days. That's crazy, man. Like, holy cow. And it just keeps going up. And it's kind of like the debt counter. Yeah, the debt counter is going up, but you can tell it's getting slower. And the Doge counter, which is, you know, cutting a lot of jobs, a lot of waste, and a ton of fat in our government, which I'm a fan of cutting fat in the government. You know, it takes a lot of hard work for me to do that, but in the government, ooh, just get it done, you know? And I think that's cool to see. And also Gulf of America, it's got a nice ring to it. That's what I'm excited about. So anyway.
Yeah, that's funny too, that the Gulf of America change is the only Trump policy in the poll that didn't have a majority of Americans supporting it. Mm-hmm. So, which I find
that was strange.
Which I find really funny.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it totally lines up with kind of how he does things. You know, he likes to throw ridiculous things out there for people to, you know, squabble about, and then he gets on with the real work in the background, kind of, which, yeah.
Yeah, you can't say the guy's lazy. Like, dang. Like, I'm just impressed at the pace. And I feel like it's only going to keep the same pace as we keep going. So, also, I'm a big fan of getting back that Panama Canal. I'm a big fan of that. I want that Panama Canal back in. Like, Jimmy, I'm sorry, Jimmy, but that was a bad call. You should never have done that. You made a lot of bad calls. Jimmy
Yeah, there's
Carter.
a lot of
like
things.
a lot of bad calls.
A lot of things
that
Jimmy
one,
should never have
I remember
done.
reading my history book when I was young, and I'm like, holy crap, we gave that up? God dang, that's stupid. With 2 O's. So, anyway, I'm glad we're going to get it back. Or at least, mostly, for now. So, anyway, that's next question. Steve also asks, what can we make of the conservative trend with elections in America and in Europe? This is a very interesting thing. I'll say something. Sargon of Akkad recently put up a video, and I'm a connoisseur of that guy. I like that guy a lot. And not a huge fan. I think you and me are on the same page. I'm not a huge fan of his Lotus Eaters podcast with all the different hosts, but we like Sargon. And he's this British fella from the UK and talks a lot of politics. He had a video called You Sow the Wind and You Reap the Whirlwind. And it basically was him ranting about how the left's reaction to what is happening in America is they're reaping what they've sowed. And I thought that was really interesting, like sowing a wind and reaping a whirlwind. I'm sure it's from some book he read, is why he titled that.
It's from the Bible.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I can't remember what verse.
Yeah, let's see.
Let me see if I can look that up.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I could turn out to be wrong, but I'm like 90% sure it's from the Bible. I just need to.
I just think it's interesting while you look that up. I think it's interesting because, and this is the last thing I'll say on that, is you see this trend in some European countries where the shift is happening, where people see the policies that have been implemented in the last 10 plus years, 15, 20 years, and they've just brought nothing but ruin. And now it's time to take control and be proud of where you live back. And I think that's what I got from that. And also to see the reaction to the trend leaning like majority Trump and majority of the vote and everything like that. I know here in California, it's very one-sided one way, but I think there's a lot of people here that support Trump in California as well. And I feel like it's just interesting to see that. So anyway, David, do you happen to get that Bible verse, or is it from the Bible? Let me look it up too, just to see what we got. Sow the wind and reap the whirlwind. Let me type this up here. Professional podcasting on the fly.
Hosea 8:7.
Yeah. 8:7. What does it say, David?
I think
I found
Hosea
it
8:7. For they have sown the wind, and they shall reap the whirlwind.
Hath no stock. The bud shall yield no meal. If so be it yield, the strangers shall swallow it up. I wonder what this whole thing is in context. I'm not familiar with Hosea very much, but it's interesting. But yeah, what are you thinking, David, about all this this Americanization back to boring, as you coined it, as well as I'm no political person in terms of expert at all. I'm no political expert. I'm no economic expert. But it's interesting to see the tide turning at the moment, especially in Europe. And I think the UK is next, as much as the people in power at Europe don't want that to be. So what do you think of all this?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a natural result of what's been going on for the past probably like 30, 40 years. Just the powers that be have tightened their grip over people in supposedly democratic nations for years and years now. And the concerns of the people that these rulers supposedly represent have fallen on deaf ears for years and years and years now. And so this is just kind of the natural end result. At some point, people feel like the grand liberal experiment has failed, and they're looking for an alternative. And so what you find is that alternative that people are seeking is tending to be returning to conservative values, returning to traditional values, which is really funny. It's really funny to me that this is happening a lot in Europe right now.
Yeah.
Where you have people basically saying over there that they're done with democracy, kind of a thing, because it doesn't work. And I think it's so funny because it's like, if you actually look at how European politics are, it's like they don't really have anything that could be called a truly democratic process. Like, you basically vote for, over in most European countries, you basically vote for a party, and then the party just puts in whoever they want. And then once they put in the person that they want, the government that they want, then they just do whatever they want with the government. Whereas here, you have less of that partially because of the two-party system.
Yeah. And
also because we have things like direct election of congressmen, so we have less of that over here.
More representatives, senators, for example, congressmen.
Yeah, so it's like
district leaders, supervisors.
No. What I'm saying is we don't have over here. We have less of the idea of just voting for a party and then hoping
hoping
they
make the right
put
choice.
in the people that we want in there. Like in general, like you can have a switcheroo can happen from time to time.
Totally.
But in general, people vote for the person that they want in office.
Yeah.
And they don't vote for a party and then hope that the party puts in the people that they want into the government. So, and the real indicator of that sort of disparity, I think, is in Kamala Harris's nomination as the Democratic Party candidate, because primary elections are just about the most undemocratic thing there are. Like, you don't like when it comes to primary elections, the party decides who their nominee is. But because in America we have this expectation that the will of the people be respected in elections, when parties do actually disregard what voters want and install a nominee of their own choosing, people react badly to it because, so like Kamala Harris was basically installed as the Democratic nominee because Joe Biden stepped down, and people were upset about that because the people who voted in the Democratic Party primaries voted for Joe Biden. And they were well within their right to do what they did because he stepped down, and so they had their process to find a replacement. But the fact that they replaced the person that
got voted
for by someone who was by far the absolute least popular candidate out of all of them.
Even in 2020.
Yeah, in 2020, she dropped out of the presidential campaign.
On the polls.
She dropped out of the presidential campaign, had no votes. Like, no, or should I say no delegates at all whatsoever. So, like, the fact that, Joe Biden was what the people who voted in the Democratic primary wanted. But then when he stepped down and the party replaced him with somebody who was bottom on the list in both elections, people were upset by that. And that tells you something, because in Europe, that happens all the time. That would not be a remarkable thing in Europe. And that tells you something about the difference between how Americans approach democracy and how Europeans approach democracy. So it's really funny to me that you have all these Europeans who are quote unquote fed up with democracy. And it's like, man,
did you guys have in the first place?
Did you ever have democracy?
Yeah.
Because some of these European countries are more like totalitarian dictatorships than liberal democracies, and yet they're democratic in name only, much like the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea. Or the Democratic Republic of the Congo,
or Republic of China, and so on and so forth. I think it's interesting because when you look at our system, you had a Republican primary and a Democratic primary. That's how it works here, or whatever party primary. And those winning voted persons are going to win. And they dropped Joe and went with Harris. And I think that's one of the many ingredients in 2024 that got Trump elected. Not just the assassinations, not just cash, RFK, Tulsi, and a whole bunch of other people who are former Democrats. I don't know if Cash was, but Tulsi and RFK specifically as well. And I believe Vivek was also a former Democrat. They all switched sides to say, hey, we're switching because we think you're the ticket and we also believe in you and we think you will get this country on track. I feel like for those out there that really have an issue with Trump, you got to look at another reason why people voted for him. Having Tulsi as the head of the director of intelligence is super cool. She was also ran in 2020 on the Democratic ticket and ended Kamala's career, period. Like put a period on her career, like a fine note on it. And if you want to go look at the debate in 2020, go look at it because it's legendary. And I love her for that. I also think it's really cool that RFK joined forces with Trump. It was that, the assassination attempt as well, Kamala swapping from Joe, and many others as well. I think that got him elected and for sure got him elected. I remember leading up to the election, people were like, no, he's making deals with the establishment so he can, because they know he's going to win. He's going to beat Joe. And I'm like, maybe, but that's stuff we just don't know. And I don't want to believe that really, but depends on if there's proof or not. But from what I've seen, the fact that Cash is now in for head of FBI, Tulsi's in, and RFK, they're going after everybody. And I'm like, I'm all for it. Like, get some of this crap out of here and get some people that actually know and act like adults can run this country. So that's why I think a lot of people voted for Trump as well. And that's what's his name? Zachary Levi said on a podcast interview months ago. He said, there's a reason why I'm supporting Trump, and he's a Hollywood actor, and his career is not amazing right now, but even at that time, but he said, I'm coming out in support because I'm voting for RFK and Tulsi because I want them to get in there and make some difference. I'm especially big on RFK fixing some of the health stuff. So, but anyway, I feel like those are the people to look out for because I feel like those folks, as the years go on, are going to be some determining forces going on in Europe. I feel like especially the UK. I feel like the UK is next in kind of this kind of turn of the tide. Whether that be a good thing or bad thing in your opinion out there, it's up to you. But in my opinion, I feel like the support of candidates in Europe, from support from RFK and Tulsi and Cash and Trump, those are going to be the ones that people I think are going to be looking at because there's big change coming in 2025, economically especially. And culturally, we're already seeing it. So to go back with Europe, I think like that's the next step. So I guess we'll see though. I could be totally wrong. Last question from Uncle Steve, and we're just going to go through these questions until we're done. And, you know, we're already almost an hour in. So difference between religion and spirituality, David. Well, that's a deep, maybe not so deep question.
Yeah, it depends on the angle you take to it. I mean, religion is a word that can encompass a whole lot of different meanings. It can be as simple as a religion can be as simple as something like a belief system, you know? So under that, under that definition, religion is just simply a word to describe people's belief systems. And so there's not really a difference between that and spirituality in any sense. Other than if you're trying to delineate between materialistic belief systems with that nonetheless venture into religious territory versus religious belief systems that incorporate the supernatural. I mean, but then of course you have the idea of religion as a set of rules that you have to live by.
That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
And that's, I wouldn't really contrast that definition of religion with the word spirituality anyway, because to me, spirituality is a word that it just means whatever people want it to mean at this point, I think. So if I was looking for something to contrast with the idea of religion as a set of rules that you have to follow so that you can be considered a good person. If I was going to contrast that with something, I would say the answer is Jesus.
Yeah.
It sounds like the easy answer, but that's that's the answer. Because most belief systems that humans have, especially the ones that involve deities and afterlives and all that, focus around the idea of a sort of transactional relationship between humans and the gods or goddesses that they serve, in that there's things you do or rules you have to follow or what have you, and you check off these boxes so that you can be accepted by your deity that you follow, or you can get the desired outcome in the model of afterlife that you subscribe to. And I think the way of Jesus stands alone in that there's no boxes to check off. That Jesus checked off all the boxes, and all it comes down to is truly accepting the finished work of the cross, which easy to say, much harder to do. But nevertheless, that I feel like that's the big difference there between what you might call religion and the way of Jesus. In religion, man checks off his boxes and, goes to his deity and says, "Look at what I did. Will you accept me now?" And
I found myself.
In Christianity, or in the way of Jesus, Jesus is the one who checked off all the boxes, and our only role is to accept that free gift. So that'd be my take on the thing.
I think you said it very more succinctly than I could. I think Jesus is the answer, absolutely. But the difference between religion and spirituality, I feel like that's interesting, because I remember I took a class with a guy, and I kind of looked up to this guy in a certain way. He might not have made all the right choices in his life. He might have had a divorce, and he sees his kid every once in a while. But he was generally a really down-to-earth guy. Wasn't spiritual, wasn't a Christian, nothing like that. But he loved his dog, loved his kid, even loved his ex-wife. And he went on, found new careers from a mechanic over to an IT guy. And really interesting fella, really cool. Went by the name of Matt. And I remember thinking about his life, and he didn't have a church or anything, or did he really need one? Who does to say? But I feel like Jesus is the answer, because when you know about intended design of how we are created, and you really understand how we are created and what parts of us correlate, is that the right word? Correlate with Christ? Maybe correlate with Christ? What parts in terms of the mind, body, soul, and spirit kind of work with Christ and how they're activated in a way is what comes to my mind. Because he could have gone off and followed. He was a very morally good fella, I would say. And I think if he had a list, he would check off a lot of those good, morally good things off his list. But what else is there to do? If you have just a checklist of morally good things to do, if your actions depend on your outcome in the end when you die. So just something to throw out there, because when you look at spirituality, when that comes to my mind, it's basically the finding of yourself. A lot of people describe. And not to me personally, but that's what a lot of people associate that with. Like, I went and I found myself. I went soul searching and I really connected, man, with the crystals, with the with the constellations or what have you, however you want to do it. I feel like spirituality is more like seeking out yourself and trying to find it, and depending on the good things that you found out about yourself and trying to manifest them in your actions. Versus religion, which is a checklist. And I'm looking at this. No, I'm not almost done. But those, I would say, is how the world views those two words. But when you add Jesus into it and you add the intended design of our souls and spirits specifically, you can, no matter what you do, you will never be able to fill up your spirit with whatever you try to throw into it, whether it be with material goods, good actions, or wasting away in bad actions or things of this world. I think Jesus will surpass all of those and completely bring you to what you're intended to be, which is a relationship with him. So anyway, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, I was going to say, you said something.
You're making some funny faces at me.
You said something about, like, people finding themselves as opposed to checking off boxes. I mean, I view that as one and the same. All those new age people, they're checking off boxes too. They're just they view religion as a smorgasbord. And so they compile their, the best, what they feel are the best bits from each religion, and they build their checklist that way. So I mean, the new age spiritual people are the same thing. They're checking off boxes. They just have a more bespoke list.
It's like self-implemented.
Yeah, they have a more bespoke checklist.
I think it's interesting you bring that up, because it's like, I think of Buddhists. No offense to Buddhists out there, but it's like...
They suck! No, I'm kidding.
Good thing we're not have a tier list of religions, but yeah, Jesus has,
I'm just kidding.
But they go and they say, I found myself.
Do Buddhists say that?
Well,
do you know any Buddhists? Because I don't.
Okay, fine. I admit I don't. But I'm saying, okay, for example, I've seen religions out there that say, I have found myself. I have centered myself. Can I be accepted now? And that's really dangerous, because when a society says no, what are you going to stand on to kind of fight that feeling off of a rejection? Where does your foundation lie? Because when you self-implement rules that to check off so that your life could be fulfilled, or very full of fulfillment, for lack of a better term, that's really dangerous, because when you go down that path, it only leads to destruction, because you're relying on yourself as a foundation and your own interpretation of life, versus the good instruction book, I should say, that's just sitting right there. So that's all I really have to say about it. I don't know. It's kind of funny, I guess, but once you have that figured out in your life, a lot of things kind of get a little easier to wrap your mind around. Just saying. Especially when you establish a relationship with Christ. It's not going to get easier, but it might get a little easier to wrap your mind around some things. Just saying. Maybe. But I pull from, I've been reading a lot of the Book of Enoch recently. And
man, you just won't shut up about the Book of Enoch.
Every time I have my lunch at work, I just read that, and just to get away from the screens. But as I'm reading, I'm like, dang, they're talking about the prophecy of Jesus coming back and the resurrection too. And a lot of stuff that's that John sees in Revelation, that they're kind of innuending. That's not a word.
I don't think they are, because the Book of Enoch was written pre-Christ.
That's a good point. Okay, well, we can have a discussion about that later. But anyway, that's what I would say, Uncle Steve. Yeah, between religion and spirituality, I feel like sometimes they can be put together one and the same, because it's not about religion, it's about relationship. So.
Oh, you said it.
Oh,
you said it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was.
You were not gonna say it.
I was almost gonna say it, and then be like,
that was a big oof.
I was gonna have to publicly flagellate myself for
What does flagellate mean, David?
Like whip.
Okay. You using some early 1900s lingo
No.
that then died out right then?
No.
Flagellate? Not flatulence?
No. Self-flagellating is a expression for like shaming yourself or
What kind of
putting yourself down.
What kind of books have you been reading?
It derives from the medieval.
We don't need to know where it derives from, David. It's a bad word.
It's a good thing. It's a good flagellation is not a bad word. Anyway, it derives from a medieval sect called the Flagellates.
Okay.
They
would whip themselves?
Yeah, they would whip themselves because this was during the plague, the Black Death.
They would whip the death out of them.
No, they would whip themselves.
They would whip the death out of themselves.
No. Bad. Stop it.
Okay, continue.
Essentially, they believed, I don't know how they got to this idea, but they believed that if they went around and whipped themselves, like actual whips, like had little nasty bits in them that would hurt when they hit themselves on the back with them, that God would see their suffering and have mercy and end the plague.
It's a bad word, David. Excuse me. Irrelevant.
Stop. Seriously, stop.
Okay.
I'm not done.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm not done.
Okay.
So they believed that. By whipping themselves, by bringing pain to themselves, that God would see that and He would be moved to compassion, I guess, to heal Europe of the plague that they were suffering. And what had ended up happening, because essentially. The belief was common that the plague was like essentially God's judgment on people's sin or what have you. Okay. And so what that morphed into was these people going around seeing other people who they thought were, sinners that were causing God's wrath to be poured out on them. And so they started whipping them too. So they went from whipping themselves to going around just basically beating people up that they thought were sinners. And and from that idea of inflicting pain on yourself with a whip in order to get mercy from God, came the expression of self-flagellation, as in terms of putting yourself down or doing something to intentionally humiliate yourself in order to essentially feel better about yourself. It's kind of like that reverse. It's like that idea of false humility.
Yeah.
That if I just really put myself down, people will see how humble I am, and they'll think I'm a good person. So self-flagellation is that idea that you're putting yourself down so that people will think you're really humble, and so you must be a good person as a result.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, the scene in Monty Python and the Holy Grail where the monks chant and then smack themselves on the forehead
Yeah.
is making fun of the flagellates.
That's awesome. I was going to say about the flagellants. I wonder if any of them actually got cured of the Black Death because of how much they bled. Like, if you bleed out somebody, sometimes sickness can go away.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I'm going to have Uncle Steve text me that because he's been a long-time nurse for a long time. So let us know, Uncle Steve, if bleeding out can eventually cure you of the Black Death. Anyway, sorry, David. I thought you were going to throw a thesaurus at my head there for a second. So I backed off. So let's move on to the next question. All right. Arson with an I wrote in and sent a video portraying his collection of media is how I would describe it. He sent it in. He's titled My Collection, and he showcased some stuff. And what I would say, Arson, and thank you, by the way, for writing in, Uncle Steve, and thank you, Arson, for sending in the video. I would say, Arson, that it reminded me a lot of when I was young, a young feller like yourself. I remember I was very proud of my DVD collection. I had it portrayed on a shelf for all to see, and I was very, very, very flippin' proud. No, legit, I was legit proud of actually my DVDs, especially my, what's that movie, David? It's called Day After Tomorrow with Jake Gyllenhaal and Dennis Quaid. Oh, I love that movie like so much. It's one of Roland Emmerich's best films. I'm going to say that. It's so much better than 2012. Let me just tell you that. But no, I liked going through. It was weird. I've used to watch a bunch of collection updates and videos on YouTube, and this reminded me exactly like one. And it was kind of nostalgic watching it, Arson. I like how you have Castlevania Season 1 and 2 on DVD. I thought that was cool. Regular show, classic. Last of Us, dude, that's a score right there. Whatever deal you paid for that, it's a good deal, good show. And I like you also have Death Road to Canada. You have excellent taste in multiplayer games, as well as Dying Light on the Switch, which, that's a banger. So anyway, that's what I thought of your video, and well done, young man. Maybe you should make more. Maybe you'll have a YouTube future. You never know. So anyway, what did you think, David?
Yeah, it was what a collection.
It was a very good collection, yeah. And you had some books in there, which I'll be honest, I don't know the names of really off the top of my head, but that's cool. Hey, you got to start somewhere, man. I buy books and I just don't read them. That's my big mistake, as well as movies and games. I'm like, oh, wow, what's this? Wow, a ghost story. I don't remember buying this Blu-ray. And then I'm like, oh, God, I kind of feel bad. Maybe I should actually do it. So, and watch it and everything. So
I will say one thing.
Okay.
Rango. That is truly an underrated movie. He was right about that.
He was very correct.
He was right about that.
Yeah.
Underrated film.
I remember watching, I think, the first half and never finish it. I should finish it. It's got Bill, I think it's pronounced Bill Nye, the guy who played Davy Jones in the Pirates films. Because Gore Verbinski did Rango. That's why Johnny Depp's Rango.
I don't think it's Bill Nye, but
what is Bill? It's the guy who was Davy Jones.
I know who you're talking about.
I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. It's like not Bill Nye, because it's the science guy, but Bill Nye. I think it's Nye. This has a Y maybe.
Yeah, I can't remember what his last name is.
Maybe we should watch Rango for the next youth group night movie. What do you think?
There you go.
Yeah, let's do it, David. Or Day After Tomorrow. What even better?
What a picture.
Arson, don't bring Castlevania or Last of Us to the youth group movie night, please. Because we would get so many parents messaging us. I think the kids would totally be fine with it, but no, we're not doing that. So anyway, thank you, Arson, for sending in the video. Moving on, we have Chelsea who wrote in, and God, I'm going to be careful pronouncing this word, but anyway, I'm going to read it out. What would Nega versus Jake and David be doing a podcast on? Etc. Would you be villains, normies, or even girls? What would the alternate version of Jake and David do a podcast on, David?
That's a difficult question to answer.
That's also a difficult word. N-E-G-A. Negaverse.
Yes.
Please don't copy that out of the clip. I beg of you. Sobia, if you're listening, do not make a thumbnail in Canvas about that, okay? I'm going to find you. I'm going to rip that mouse and keyboard away from your desk, and I'm going to throw it out the window. Calling you out, Sobia. Anyway.
Honestly, that... Speaking of,
yes,
the word that could be
yeah,
easily
Chelsea,
confused
what's up
for.
with that? You trying to get us
No,
canceled?
hold on.
Okay.
She's got something. She's got something here.
Okay.
Imagine, like,
if you will.
Imagine all the black superheroes came together in one comic book special, and it was called the verse.
No.
You know, like there's the Enter the Spider-Verse, right?
An hour and 15 minutes in. We still need to get to Thad's questions. Yes, there's more than one.
That's all I got for that.
Oh my.
That's all I got for that question.
Okay, so David, I don't think we'd be doing a podcast in the alternate universe. I feel like you and me wouldn't be even doing a podcast in the alternate universe. Like Bizarro World, right?
Yeah, I don't know. We already live in Bizarro World, so
Yeah.
I can't even begin to imagine what the Bizarro World of Bizarro World would look like. So that's why I, instead of answering the question, just jumped straight to a black superhero mega feature.
Okay, what about Black David and Black Jake? What would they be doing? Okay, never mind. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Okay, what about Villain David and Villain Jake? What would they be doing? I'd probably have 5... Never mind.
Wow.
I was gonna
so
say
many
something.
places you could go.
I was going to say 5 love childs is what I would say.
So many places you could go. So many places that shouldn't be gone to.
The villain version of Jake would probably be like a fake humble person. And various things I can think of my bad. Like if I were an evil person and I succumbed to every evil thing and thought, God, that'd be horrible. That'd be villain Jake for sure.
Yeah. I
don't want to think about that.
Yeah, me neither.
I feel like David, your villain version wouldn't have a beard. I think that's the biggest sin. Is your villain version wouldn't have a beard.
Yeah, that would be the icing on the cake that would cement his villain status.
And neither would the girl versions of us, by the way. I don't think either of us would have beards if we were women. Like Jacoby, I don't know, or Roberta is for me. Yeah, Roberta, and God, I don't even know what a girl version of David would be.
You know, I'm almost certain.
Well, at least the name would be.
I'm almost certain this is a bad idea to admit this on air, but
no, don't tell him. No. If I'm thinking of what you are gonna say, don't say it.
Yeah,
don't say it, David.
I don't think I ever told you this.
I don't think we're ready for that.
I don't think you know what I'm talking about.
Are you talking about the dream?
Did I tell you about that?
You told me about that. I think we need to save that for another episode. Let's leave the audience in a little.
Oh wait, you know what? I think I actually already talked about this on another episode of the podcast.
Oh, I think it was episode 4. No, 3. The time travel one.
Time travel one.
Did
yes,
we do it?
yes.
I think we did talk about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I already talked about it.
All right, fine, go for it.
Yeah.
Right.
I actually had a dream one day that I was a trans woman, which is bizarre to say the least. Which is
to hear you say it out loud in front of a microphone is hilarious. I'm sorry.
It was bizarre to say the least. I woke up. I woke up from this dream like I flabbergasted. Like I was like, where did this come from? But yeah, I had a dream that I was like a younger version of me, so beardless.
Okay. Emo David.
That's no, I wasn't an emo, but
it wasn't emo era David.
I was beardless and I was
majoring
much
in
less rotund than I am now. I think the era in my dream was a real era in my life, just without the trans part. I was going because I did a little bit of Butte College, like right after high school.
Yeah.
And so that was like the time period that the dream took place in. So yeah, I was beardless and much thinner. So, yeah, it made. I feel like I pulled it off much more convincingly than I would if I tried that now.
Oh man, I totally forgot we talked about that 50 episodes ago.
It's
Dang.
one of those things. It's just like,
Wow.
I
Yeah, it's
can't.
weird.
It's
Yeah.
super strange. I
Yeah.
can't explain it. Can't explain it.
There's some dreams that I've remembered throughout the years that they were mostly nightmares that just stick in my mind that I don't want to remember. I don't even want to say them on air because I'm talking like they were violent. Like for some reason they were like obscenely R-rated violent, like blood and stuff. And I don't know why. Like, it's not like I was and I had them when I was a teenager. And it's not like I was, maybe because I was super into Hunger Games or something, but I don't know. I don't know. So.
Well, the weird thing about this dream that's sticks
When
out
did
to
you
me
have it, by the way?
is that it wasn't a nightmare specifically. I mean, I wouldn't want that to be the case in reality.
Yeah.
But
It's its own kind of nightmare.
so it wasn't like it would, if it were real, yes, that would be a nightmare scenario. But in the context of the dream world, like in the logic of the dream world, I wasn't like, I wasn't like embarrassed to be walking around in women's clothing. For whatever reason, in the logic of the dream world, I accepted that. Like that was just a normal thing.
Yeah, normal.
So it wasn't a nightmare because in the dream, I wasn't afraid of anything and nothing unpleasant happened in the dream itself. But yes, if that were an actual phase in my life, yes, that would have been a nightmare scenario.
Chelsea also asks us, what's your favorite superhero? I'm going to go DC. Not Marvel, because I feel like DC has more interesting heroes. I'm going to say, man, I was definitely not prepared to answer this. I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I like Supergirl. I like Superman. That's kind of a boring answer, but I do like a lot of Superman stuff. There's a lot of villains I like, that's for sure. Like, I love Clayface. So cool. Even Harley Quinn's really neat. There's just a lot of really cool stuff that DC does. I don't know. What do you think? What's your favorite superhero, David?
Does it have to be a hero or can it be a villain?
I got my Marvel one.
Got your Marvel one?
Yeah, Constantine.
Oh, okay.
That's what's up.
I forgot that was a Marvel entity. Let's see.
It's Marvel. Yeah. No, wait. I think it's actually, I'm going to look it up while you answer.
Let's see. Favorite superhero.
Hellboy?
Well, I mean,
That'd be my second guess. Or second choice, I think.
I mean, I enjoyed one Hellboy movie out of the three that exist.
You didn't watch two?
I saw parts of it.
It's good.
I didn't watch the whole thing.
That's really good. Constantine is DC, by the way. Alan Moore and the such.
Okay. So, like, my only experience with Hellboy is liking the one movie that I saw all the way through. And I mean, the reboot one was just terrible. I didn't have to watch the whole thing to know.
Yeah, that was David Harbour and Mia Jovovich, the Resident Evil chick.
Mila Jovovich.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so
I heard horrible things about that. But I do like David Harbour, so I kind of want to give it a shot, but I don't know if I could stand. We'll see. So anyway, what do you think?
Favorite
superhero?
What's your favorite superhero?
Not even Marvel or DC. It could be outside of that. My favorite superhero is Rick Grimes. I love that guy.
You know who my favorite superhero is, just because of internet memes, is Moon Knight.
Oh my god. I love that.
Freaking nerd.
Dracula.
Yeah. I think that he's my favorite superhero in the meme form.
Yeah.
Like I've never actually read a Moon Knight comic.
Same.
And the Moon Knight TV series had some good moments, but was mostly kind of fell flat.
Yeah.
But the meme version, the internet meme
Legendary.
version of Moon Knight is absolutely top tier. No one even comes close. I so wanted them to include just like one little tidbit of the meme mood night in the show.
Yeah.
Like, even if it was just a little morsel, just a little
line. That's all we need.
Like if he referenced like Dracula being a nerd.
Yeah.
Or if he said random bullshit go.
Yeah.
I would have considered that the TV series overall a win if they had just even included a morsel of the meme mood night, but they did not.
Yeah, so it's funny because in the Marvel Rivals, like Overwatch type Marvel game that came out, they've added lines where he's like, God, I hate that nerd. Like they legit have the meme referenced in the game. And it's awesome. I love it. So maybe during the next LAN party, David, when we play Marvel Rivals, we'll have you play Moon Knight and see how you do it. He's also really OP. Like you can get some kills with that guy.
Well, man, I don't know. You're making me want to play
Marvel Rivals.
That's a bad thing, dude.
Yeah, I know it's just bad. At least it's not
terrible.
Overwatch. At least not Overwatch.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope,
It's a slippery slope, you know? So, dude, you know what Squirrel Girl says if you pick her in the roster?
No.
Time to eat nuts. Or no, it's... I can't remember what she says now. I was laughing. It's, time to eat nuts and kick butts is what she says.
That's
one heck of a line. Let me tell you.
That's funny.
So anyway, I do like how the Thing just got introduced and he has a genuine Brooklyn accent. It's like introducing the children who are not of Brooklyn or Eastern United States descent to get exposed to the Brooklyn accent. I like that. Anyway, speaking of Brooklyn accents, Ryan wrote in, which has no correlation whatsoever, but shout out to you, Ryan. What's your biggest regret mistake? Well, we're going to go back to that. Let's do the easier ones you got. Favorite candy, David?
Mounds.
Ooh, that's good. I'm going to say Snickers. I just love Snickers. Mounds is a really good one, though. Underrated, too. All right, favorite song genre and why?
Favorite genre?
Yeah, it just says genre. Okay, we can just do genre. Favorite genre of music and why?
Yeah, if it's a genre of song, then would naturally have to be a genre of music.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he phrased it that way differently.
But yeah, genre. If this were
ska,
there was a period of time where I listened to, well, I wouldn't say I listened to a lot of ska. I listened to like one ska band a lot. That was Five Iron Frenzy. Ooh. I was a big fan of Five Iron Frenzy back in the day. If you ask me during the time period in which my trans dream occurred, what my favorite genre was, it would be metal, hands down. Nowadays, I don't know if I have a favorite genre.
Yeah, same. I love... There's so many. I'll just say ska for the meme. I love rap, though. Rap's really great, but even like alternative, like I love the hippy dippy weirdness of like all the alternative like rock and alternative secular bands and even alternative Christian. Like I just love like Reliant K. I love Smash Mouth. I love I even love what's that band we were talking about that was on Bedazzled, Hazel. What was it called? I don't remember the name.
Sister Hazel.
Sister Hazel. I love Sister Hazel. I love Jurassic 5. I'm just weird. I love everything. So don't ask me for opinions on music because I'll give you terrible recommendations. Next to final question he has is favorite milkshake flavor. I'm going Oreo mint, bro. There's no other option here.
No.
No?
You ever had a Red Bull milkshake?
Ooh, no. That actually sounds pretty good.
It's surprisingly delicious.
Dude, that actually, like, legit, with ice cream? Bro. Like a Dr. Pepper float I've had before. That's pretty good. But milkshake, I'm going Oreo mint. Me a little boring. But his final question, David, is biggest regret / mistake. I don't know. Mistake. We've been asked this before in local church meetings and youth group settings and also in this house. Like, it's kind of like, I look at it as, well, every mistake that has been made kind of throughout my life has shaped me into who I am today. And I'd rather have the stuff that did happen so that I can be who I am today, because I'm kind of cool with how I've turned out. But in terms of like biggest mistake and regret, I'm gonna have to think about that one.
The only thing that I could call a regret is I wish I had kind of gotten with the program a little sooner. I don't necessarily regret any of the mistakes that I've made, because, it's led me to be who I am today. But in terms of like getting to the point of realizing what the things that I needed to, get together so that my life could be on track, I guess I wish I had, gotten it on track a little bit sooner than I did. But that's about the only thing I can think of.
You know what? I do have one now that you say that. I think having more of an emphasis and focus on my finances and budget, because that's one area in my life I'm pretty weak in, to be quite honest, and I'm just not very good at managing that. I'm getting better at that. As I said in the beginning of this podcast, I was talking to somebody to set up some retirement thing. I even put down beneficiaries, all this kind of stuff. I think not maybe that specifically, but I'm 27. I'm just getting to that. So I don't think that, I think that I would just like if I was 18, 19 myself, I would be like going to Butte College and I'd probably tell him, hey, put some more focus on finances and really budget it out. Right now you're kind of working, you're kind of not, but really socket away some money and and don't buy so many Blu-rays. That'd be just more focus on finances. I think the earlier you get onto that and you sit down, spend like 30 minutes on paper and write down what you spend every month or write down what you spend in every week. Even if you're a teenager and you only use it to buy Dutch and maybe some Fortnite coins or whatever, it's like important to write that stuff down. It gets you in the groove of doing it. I mean, shout out to Adelaide's, like one of her best friends. I don't know if she wants me to say her name, so I'm going to avoid it. But one of her best friends growing up saved every dollar she really ever had. Like, that's an exaggeration, but she saved so much that by the time she was 28, 26, I think it was 28, she bought her own house in Corning. No joke. Like, she saved every penny by the time she was 13, like for 16 years, she saved. And she worked her tail off for it. And she now owns a house in Corning. It's crazy. So that's what I would say. Just, you don't have to go that extreme, but just socket away some money. Get some savings going. Heck, invest in some stuff. Maybe not Bitcoin, but if you want, sure. Invest in something. Something that may have a payout later. So anyway, that's what I would do. Thank you, Ryan, for writing in. All right, Adelaide writes in. Oh, God, here we go. It's Adelaide writing in, David. You know what to expect. It's going to be robot, furries, and all this kind of stuff. Friday Fazbear fan fiction. Here we go. But I'm joking. Let's see what she has. Okay. If you were working on mastering something in university, oh, God, I haven't read this, so this is new to me. If you were working on mastering something in university, what would your very detailed and extensively defended dissertation be about and why? She says it could be anything, real, fictional, something you could passionately talk about for days. For the first time, Adelaide, I am a loss for words. I don't know. I would talk about the art of social manipulation. No, I'm joking. I would talk about just the social analyzing of human beings. I think psychologically is pretty interesting. I think psychology, is really interesting in that sense, and seeing how people behave and emote and react to things, and seeing how you could. I remember doing this when I first started working at Butte, like in analyzing, like having body language to be more open so people can ask you questions. I found out that was an important factor. It kind of is now, kind of isn't really in my mind, past tense, but I don't know. I'd write it on psychology of some kind is what I would do. But what do you got, David? What would your dissertation be about?
If I was going to write a dissertation,
a book, a thesis,
on something
very detailed,
extensively
defended.
In a world
Klingon.
in a world where I actually had the inclination to write any sort of dissertation, which I don't because I am supremely lazy and despise doing any kind of work related to education. That's why I didn't stick with college. But if in a world where I was actually writing a dissertation, man, it could be about so many things. Like, there's so many things I've like obsessively researched over the years.
British politics.
I was going to say the geopolitics of the Star Wars universe.
Oh, yeah.
That would be an example of something
Them trade routes, baby.
That would be
Phantom
an
Menace.
example of something that if I were of a mind to go to university and write a dissertation on something, it would be something weird like that.
Okay. Her last question is, if you were to be, oh God, Adelaide, here we go. I'm sorry, Adam, I'm being a little mean. Sorry. If you were to be best friends with any fictional character, games, books, movies, who would it be and why? I got an answer. You ready, David? I would pick the two, the daughter and son from the Hangman's Curse books. Because those kids know how to be spies. They know how to, manipulate. They know how to play the social game because they're spies, basically. They know how to infiltrate places. They're very careful and cool. And they're Christian. And they have a very loving family. They actually have really cool personalities. Frank Peretti did a great job writing those books, especially the characters. I do want to say that. And that family specifically. Their dad's cool. Their mom's cool. They just sound cool to hang out with. So I would go with them. The two kids from the Hangman Curse book, as well as the Nightmare Academy being the sequel to that. So those two kids, I couldn't say their names for the life of me, but those two kids are cool. I like them. They're pretty dope. And they fit right in with our youth group. So yeah, I'd do that. I would hang out with them. What about you, David?
Fictional character.
Senator Gobu from Naboo. What's the dude who's the tan Yoda? Do you remember his name?
Oh, God, I don't remember
Let me look
his
him up.
name at all.
Let me go to Wikipedia.
Yeah, the disturbing flesh-colored Yoda, who
I'm gonna Google it that way.
Who only appears movie-wise in Phantom Menace, I think.
r/WTF on Reddit. Yoda with human skin color.
He does have a name. I can't remember. It's not. I almost said Yaddle, but I don't think it's
not,
Yaddle.
Dude, the Reddit's cracking me up.
That's a
they said
different
Mel
character.
Brooks and Dobby. Like,
no, he does have a name.
Yeah, I'm going to Wikipedia. Let me see.
What is his name? It's
God, I hate fandom.com so much. I'm sorry. Keep going.
What is it?
Yeah. I'm trying to Jedi Master. What is his name? Yoda species. I'm looking for it. All right, let me. Professional podcasting. Humans. God, people Photoshop Yoda to have human skin. Oh no! They did it to Grogu too. Oh no! I don't want to go any deeper into this rabbit hole than I want to. But what's his name? God, what is his name? Okay, maybe flesh-colored Yoda was not a good Google search. In fact, this is in Brave. So let me actually go to Google. So, tan Yoda character. Tan Yoda character. Here we go. Google, you're so stupid. Oh! His name is Tan Yuster. Is that right? No, that's not it. That's the dude with the dreads from Attack of the Clones.
Man, I don't...
What's his name? Dude. All right, well, hey, Snarp Fangle, people, if you're listening, and the guy in Phantom Menace who has the big scar across his eye, who looks like Yoda, who's a little taller than Yoda, who's at the end of also Phantom Menace, and is in the Clone Wars show, and he talks, send him in. Oh, wait, maybe... I got it! You ready? Evan Peel. That's his
Evan
name.
Peel. Oh yeah.
Evan Peel. Okay, we found it. Never
Yeah.
mind, guys. You can still send him in if you want.
Oh yeah.
Evan Peel is a Jedi Master.
Definitely him.
Who is the really tan actor?
That's who I would be. That's who I would be best friends with. Definitely him, for sure.
Wait, is that what we decided? Or is that... Or was that actually your answer? I totally we did on a huge side quest there.
Yeah, let's just go with that.
All
let's
right,
go
yeah,
with that.
Same. Adelaide writes, some in Sagoma from Kazazimoto, and then some robot from Rogue One. So we're going to move on. All right, we're almost to our last person. So Chris writes in, almost last person, and says, ever heard of an AI math tutor? Apparently it is a very lucrative career, teaching AI how to properly do math. I'll be quite honest. I texted Chris like, hey, we're going to do questions in the upcoming week. Can you send me any questions? And he sent me this, and I don't think it has anything related to do with questions, but I wanted to read it because it kind of sounds like a question he has. So, I don't know. Chris, is this a question for the podcast, or did you just text me something randomly like you do? Ever heard of an AI math tutor? No, I have not, Chris. And I did not know you could teach AI math.
Well, I mean,
if that's a gig,
somebody has to.
Yeah, if there's a gig, bro, go after it, man. Get your money. Get your bag while they're still dumb, you know?
Yeah, somebody has to teach AI math because...
Yeah, I ain't doing it.
Yeah.
All right, next to last person writes in. Says Stephanie writes in. Right on the dot, right as we're hitting record. She says, do you believe spirits come back to visit us after they're gone? I don't know. I don't. That's a good question.
I'm going to go with no.
Are we talking spirits, Stephanie, from animals? They don't even have spirits. Are we talking spirits from people? Because I've heard people say, I'd like to come back as a pillow. I remember that one Garfield comic. He says, man, I'd love to come back as a pillow if I die.
Well,
Because
yeah.
that way people lay their head on me every night, and it's just like a warm, fuzzy feeling. But now in hindsight and saying it out loud, it sounds a lot more creepy, Garfield.
Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah.
I mean, getting away from the idea of reincarnation.
Yeah.
I would say generally no. I don't believe that sort of thing happens. I mean, there's obviously spirits out there,
Yeah.
but the idea that spirits of dead people come back to visit us, which I think is what she was getting at. I would say I don't think that happens. I think that we can get a glimpse of what a person's state might be after death, whether that be God revealing, giving us a glimpse into that, like in a dream or something, or whether that be like somebody getting that information from a counterfeit source, like, you know, having a seance or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
in Sopranos.
Like
satanic crap.
Whether the information is real or not real, I do believe that in certain cases we can get a glimpse of what a person's after death state is, like if it comes from God, because I've heard accounts of people like them wondering if their like dead loved ones were, you know, like
if they were all right,
like if they went to heaven or something, you know, some people who basically had a rough life and they died young, and their believing relatives are left wondering, were they actually saved? Did they go to heaven? And then I've heard stories of these people having dreams where they get a glimpse of that person being in heaven, and then after having that dream, they just have this sense of peace come over them, like that question is no longer like that question is no longer causing them anxiety or causing them grief. So to me, like, I could see that in certain moments, God could give us a glimpse into what a person's post-death life might be. And then, of course, people can seek out that same kind of information from counterfeit sources, from evil sources. Not to say that those sources actually give accurate information, but nevertheless, people could seek out information from those sources. And in certain cases, even receive an answer.
Yep.
But other than that, I don't think they actually come back. Like, I don't think they actually come back. Like, there's one instance in the Bible where King Saul, he's basically been disobedient for rebelling against God for years now, and he has no intention of mending his ways and seeking God once more. And God's already told him through various messengers that because of his disobedience, his line is no longer going to be the one that rules Israel. So he's at the end of his rope, and he wants answers, but he doesn't want to repent for what he's done. But he wants an answer from God still. So he goes to a witch.
Yep.
And asks her to basically do divination to give him an answer of what he needs to know for, like, basically he's about to go into battle against an opposing nation. And, well, the witch does her thing, and she summons up the spirit of the prophet Samuel. And this is the only time something like a dead person actually appears, like a dead person's ghost or spirit actually appears to someone in the Bible. And my take on that story is that the reason why it's in there is because it's supposed to be the exception that proves the rule. One thing that leads me to believe that led me to this particular interpretation is, in the story, she seems rather taken aback when Samuel's ghost appears.
That's cool.
Almost like she didn't expect anything to actually happen. I get the sense from the story that she was gonna make up some BS about what the quote unquote spirits told her
and get paid for it.
Yeah, and get paid for it. And instead, the ghost of the prophet Samuel actually appears to give Saul a message and basically tell him, you done effed up, son.
Yep.
You're gonna die.
I would refer to the Mount of Hermon in the Bible, where Jesus goes to the top and then the transfiguration happens, and they see Elijah, and they see Moses on the mountain with him. But I don't know if this was necessarily spirits.
Yeah, see that's would be that fits more into the concept of having a vision.
Yeah.
In my mind, they the disciples who went up with Jesus, I think it was just Peter, James, and John.
Yeah.
Who went up with Jesus on the mountain. They had a vision of Moses and Elijah, but I'm not convinced that the spirits of Moses and Elijah were somehow summoned to that mountain.
Yeah. I feel like there's some Christian conspiracy theories, for lack of a better term, that have to do with the Mount of Hermon and it being a place where time, how would I describe it, coalesces, for lack of a better term. Where Moses, when he went on the Mount of Hermon back in the day, no, he didn't. No, never mind. But there's a place where heaven and earth, or the spiritual world and the earth, meet there, apparently. And it's like almost like a time thing. Like, I don't know how to describe it. I've heard some podcasts on it, and it's interesting, but it's not entirely biblical.
Sounds like some new age BS.
Yeah,
to me.
but the reason why they were showing up there is because either throughout their time back in the day, like imagine it being like a not a time machine, but a moment in history where
like a time portal, essentially.
Basically, yeah. Like Moses was, at some point in history, he was standing on a mountain, and that was the time portal that opened up, and he saw Jesus and the three guys there. Same thing with Elijah, or something to that extent. And they just happened to be there with Jesus at that one moment. So that's the Christian conspiracy theory. And if you dive deeper into it, Revelation has some things to do with that as well, with like the end battle and how the the principalities of the air invade the physical world and everything from the spiritual. It's really weird and trippy, which I don't know if I don't think I believe at all, but it's kind of interesting to dive into. So that's all I will say for that. But I think I do want to comment on the topic of, do spirits come back? I feel like if you go to like a gypsy woman, think of the scene from The Sopranos where the guy freaks out and he's like, some sick satanic shish, you know? When people feel like this is familiar, that can be pretty dangerous. Like, say you lost a loved one, right? Say they weren't entirely holy, okay? And you go to somebody to visit them, right? What they're basically bringing back is the familiar spirits that attach themselves to those people. And when people say, oh, hey, this is familiar, this is comforting, it's those spirits that were attached to that person, whether it be the spirit of idolatry, gluttony, spirit of disobedience, drunkenness, what have you. I feel like you got to be really careful when you mess with that kind of stuff, because those people who claim to talk to those people don't really talk to them. They just talk about the demons and spirits that attach themselves to those people.
I mean, that's in the minority of cases where where such people actually even have any contact with the spiritual world at all.
Yeah.
Most of these people are just straight up charlatans.
Yeah. Yep.
Frauds, charlatans. I think the Witch of Endor in the Bible was one of those. She was going to make up some BS to tell King Saul, but much to her surprise, an actual spirit appeared.
Yeah. So interesting stuff, but don't take my word for it. In fact, don't take my word for it. In fact, I'm probably wrong on all of what I just said. So, all right, David, we got to the final person.
Countdown.
That wrote in questions, and he wrote a whopping 30 questions for us.
We might have to do this.
No. We're gonna
round.
We're doing it lightning round. If we go a little longer, then okay. But here we go. Thad wrote in. Our good old friend, Uncle Daddy Thad wrote in, David. And
I don't like that you call him that.
I'm going to call him that anyway, because Makes you uncomfortable. No, I'm joking. But anyway, Uncle Daddy Thad wrote in, and he says, for the first question, here we go. You ready, David?
Yes.
All right, boxers or briefs?
Briefs.
Okay, same. I'm a briefs man, and I'm a fat guy. It's hard to find boxers that fit, to be quite frank. So, yeah. I wanted to go on a whole diatribe when I read that, but I'm going to keep going because we got to do lightning round. So.
Oh, you know what? Sorry. I was
going to say, what?
I was momentarily, I don't know why I said briefs. I was momentarily thinking of something else. Sorry. Boxers.
Okay.
Boxers. I had a weird moment where my brain like switched the words around. They like meant the opposite thing in my head for some reason.
Well, unfortunately, the first answer is the correct one, or at least the one that's going to be written in the history books, David. So
I don't really care.
All right, you go boxers, I go briefs. All right, what? Nick, moving on. Number
You're
2.
a little country, I'm a little rock and roll.
Number 2. That says, "Where is the Ark of the Covenant hidden?" Ooh, I don't know.
It's definitely in the Vatican's basement.
Really? Along with all the skeletons of children, probably. So, anyway.
Along with all those, like, probably, all that Nazi, the relics of the Nazi conquests of World War II.
Yeah. No, not yeah, but correct.
Yeah! Nazis!
Nazi! Oh, God. We're going to clip that out and be like in a random compilation one day. All right, so number 3. What is David's opinion on Taylor Swift's new album? This is going to be a nice short one.
Haven't listened to it.
Okay, moving on. Number 4, who would win in a hand-to-hand combat battle between Klaus SSchwab versus Alex Jones?
Alex Jones.
Yeah, hands down. Have you seen that guy? He's also cut a lot of weight off too. So, and he looks a lot more scary too. So,
Klaus SSchwab is,
he's a
shall we
pasty
say,
old German guy.
Shall we say a little on the fruity side?
Yep, and he echoes some old Germanic feelings that make people uncomfortable as well. So, for those who don't know who Klaus SSchwab is, just Google him and just read every single article that comes after that.
Yeah.
Maybe don't read all the ones about Alex Jones because a lot of them are, you know. Anyway, number 5. If you could be a dog, what dog would you be? I didn't know he wrote that. If I were a dog?
Oh boy.
I don't know. What would you be? Not what do you want to be?
If I could be a dog, I want to be Snoopy. Because he's the coolest dog there is.
God, I'm trying to think of a cartoon dog now. Man, David, you took the best one. I don't want to be Odie. He's a retarded dog. God, I don't know. I wouldn't be an English bulldog.
You for sure don't want to be Old Yeller.
Neither do I want to be Old Yeller. I'm going to say NA for this question. I have no idea. Number 6, what is our assurance that we are saved, David?
Let's see. It's one of those things you just know. Because when you...
Yeah, you just know. I think when
you put your faith in Christ, the Holy Spirit comes inside of you and regenerates you and makes you into a new creation.
Kind of like Doctor Who.
And
not really, but you know.
Like when you are genuinely put your faith in Christ, when you believe in his death and resurrection, and you trust in the finished work of the cross, you are a new creation. There's no denying that. You're a different person. The Bible talks about us being sealed with the Holy Spirit until the day of redemption. So like the Holy Spirit is literally living inside of us, giving us that internal witness that we belong to Christ.
I'd agree with you. I think like the term blessed assurance as well. I think you nailed it on the head. I think it's just, like once you know you're saved, you know you're saved. And yes, faith is an aspect of that, but for me personally, from what I've experienced, I would say it's you just know. And it's kind of what I was referring to earlier. Once you you kind of, your mind is kind of easier to wrap your mind around some things in life that you weren't previously akin to, is what I would say. Not just spiritually, but just everyday stuff. Like, I don't have worries that I'm going to die tomorrow, because if I do die, I know where I'm going. I don't have that fear or that anxiety or that unassuredness in my mind. It's assurance that I will be saved, that I am saved. So, yeah. All right, next question. What is Satan's biggest deception in our day and age? Ooh, this is a juicy one.
Oh, yeah.
I would have to say the biggest deception, it's identity. It's 100% tied to identity of people and what they think they are and what their foundation is in. I think that's the biggest deception, is questioning yourself in all aspects, gender, in all aspects as well. I think gender is the biggest one specifically. That's the deception of the day.
Yeah. It doesn't even have to be tied to a specific thing. For me, it's just like, yeah, Satan gets people by convincing them to put their identity in something like a movement, or an idea about who they are as a person or whatever.
Societal acceptance.
Yeah, something that isn't Christ.
Yeah, I mean, stuff that's fleeting, like politics and societal pressure and
money,
So I think that's the biggest deception. And mostly, I think also it distracts us from what we're truly meant to be. And that's the biggest deception right there, I would say. All right, next question. How long do we have until America as we know it is no more? David, you're the first on this guy.
Hopefully, hopefully we have a long time. Hopefully we manage to avoid certain destruction and are on a path towards restoration of what America was meant to be. Because I mean, as far as America as we know it being no more, it's almost like we were already basically there at one point.
Yeah, basically.
We were on the precipice, and it seems like there's been a shift in culture that it seems like for the moment that we may have just been, by the grace and mercy of God, stopped just short of dropping off the cliff edge and are turning back around.
I would say America's been through some incredibly dark times, even to the point right after the creation of America. I mean, the War of 1812 comes to my mind. I mean, deciding whether or not to support France in their current revolution at the time and all this kind of stuff. America was on the precipice right there. Like, they didn't know if they were going to live and if they were going to be destroyed and the British were going to come and, the empire was going to strike back, So there's that. There's also the Civil War. There's also some really dark economic times leading up to the Civil War, and even especially afterward during Ulysses S. Grant's presidency. There were some dark times. Like, imagine being at war with yourself in America, and then Sherman, especially after the very first battle, I would say, of the Civil War, leading up to that, people thought it would be a show. No, it wasn't. It was blood and guts, and it was the first, in quotes. No, I could be wrong. I don't know if that or World War I was the first modern war, in quotes. I think the Mexican-American War was. I could be wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, audience. But anyway, you had that leading up to it, and then Sherman's reign and burning of countless towns and raping of women, all this kind of stuff really just took the Civil War, that and the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. I don't think people even knew America was going to stay as it was after that. I mean, they knew that politically it was won. The war was won as well, but the culture didn't come to that until later. So America's been through some dark ass times. I mean, not even mentioning World War I and II. And now where we're at, I feel like it was to the point of we were going to be overtaken, say, in 20 years. I feel like, or even the end times were probably in sight. and for a lot of people last year probably. But I think America, I'd say a nice solid 200 more years. That's what my prediction would be.
200 more years.
200 more years, and we still would be short of the Roman Empire.
When you said America's been through some dark ass times, like in that moment,
yeah. Tell me, David, what came to your mind when I said dark ass times in America?
In that moment, I wanted to be like, you know what else America's been through? America's been through some dank ass times. I restrained myself from doing that. I
appreciate you. I thank you that you gave me that grace, and I'm sorry I didn't give it to you during your flegatorious whatever word you said. Okay, moving on. What is the exact date and time Jesus was returning? I don't know. Moving on. David, you have anything? Exact date and time Jesus is returning.
Exact date and time. Let's see. March 8th, 2056.
How old will you be, and how old will I be?
I don't know.
I think I'll be 57 in 2053. So what was the year? 58?
2056.
2056. That's 2 more. So I'd be 55. Ooh. No, I'd be 55 and 53. I don't know. I'd be in my 50s.
I'd be like 60 something.
Yeah. Spry young chicken.
So yeah.
That's
the
your
date.
Prediction?
That's the date right there.
All right. March 8th.
You heard it first.
You've heard it here first, folks. All right. Next. Who was Cain afraid of when God banished him out of the land?
Clearly the Neanderthals.
Yeah. And the crazy Neanderthals and the dinosaurs,
Because, see, Adam was God's special creation of a new human species. Mm-hmm. Bear with me here.
Okay. Yeah. So
Adam represents the creation of us, Homo sapiens, right?
That's right.
But that doesn't mean there weren't other humans milling about who were outside the garden, who were hominids, but not of the same species. See what I'm saying? And what's very interesting about the Neanderthals is they died off not because they were like forcibly conquered or anything, but simply because Homo sapiens outbred them essentially, and they essentially lost what their unique genetic identifiers as their birth rates declined, and most of them ended up like just simply mating with Homo sapiens, which is why modern humans actually have a percentage of Neanderthal DNA. But those Neanderthal eventually just lost their genetic uniqueness, like what made them, and what survived of their genetic material was just incorporated into the genome of Homo sapiens. So it's very interesting when you think about it.
So the next obvious question is, if the humanoids were outside of the garden, where did they come from?
Well, I mean, obviously God created them the same way He's created everything, but but the creation of Adam and Eve was a special thing.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that's what I believe. That's just a hypothesis.
I would equate that a lot of people would associate the Nephilim being the children of the angels that fell from heaven.
Yeah, but that was later.
So I'm trying to think of what Cain was afraid of, because he went in the Bible to build a big ass city with surrounding by walls. And his own little civilization. He's playing civilization in the Bible right there.
Yeah, most.
So he's afraid of something.
Most of the most orthodox biblical answer that you could give is that by that time, Adam and Eve already had plenty of descendants, and they had all had just sort of kind of migrated out into the world.
Yeah, because in terms of the bloodline that then connects to Jesus, it's through Seth as the bloodline, right?
Yes.
The first son of Adam.
Seth is not the first son of Adam.
I'm sorry, he's the third son of Adam, technically. But that's the son that starts the bloodline that leads to Jesus, right?
Well, it starts the bloodline that leads to everybody.
That's true. That's true
because Abel didn't have any children because he died.
He did.
And Cain's bloodline was wiped out in the flood.
That's true. I forgot about that.
So, yeah.
Huh.
The Seth is essentially would be the ancestor of all of humanity at this point.
Well, here's the thing. The daughters of Noah as well, if you want to get even more deeper in this, didn't they have some kind of bloodline, you could argue?
Well, you don't know.
Of the world of
You
Cain?
You don't know. They
true.
could have, but they could have not. And in the same way that we have modern humans have a little bit of Neanderthal DNA in us. That doesn't make us Neanderthal.
Yeah.
That doesn't make us descended from Neanderthal. It just happens to be that there was a little bit of interbreeding that happened. But the Neanderthal as a people are no more. There are no modern day people who are modern Neanderthals or modern Neanderthal descendants. We're all Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
So in the same way, it's like, sure, maybe Noah's sons' wives had a little bit of ancestry, a little bit of their genetic information that came from one of Cain's descendants. But that doesn't make the people, the children that they had, and that those children had children. That doesn't make those part of Cain's bloodline in any significant way. And honestly, it's all speculative because we have zero clue.
Yeah, we don't
what
know
their ancestry was. They could have been from the line of Seth as well.
Yeah. Here's another interesting thing I've been pondering on as well, because going with Enoch was taken up from the Lord. He was a favorite of the Lord's, and he was taken from the earth, and he was taken at the prime ripe young sweet age of 365. When all of his sons and his dad and even Adam were in their 900s and 800 years olds. That's how old they grew up to be. So it makes me question, so was Adam around when his seventh son was around? Or was this 3,000 years later? Because if Adam died at 900 years old and Seth was still alive, say at 700 or whatever age he had him at, how long does that make the earth? How long does that make other stuff? How long does that connect to the 14,000 year, I think it's 20,000 year old earth theory?
Oh, believe me.
All that kind of stuff.
The calculations have already been done.
I'm sure they've been, but it just makes me think about and speculate just not how old the earth is necessarily, because who knows in terms of dating the earth, it could be, who knows the time between Genesis 1 and 2? Who knows the time between Genesis 2 and 3 and 4 and 5? Who knows how long that was? So it just makes me question the same with the lineage and the sons of Adam and the sons of Seth and so on and so forth. So how old was the earth when Noah and the flood came? Was it 1,000+ years? Was it 3 or 4 or 5,000+ years? I have no idea. It was definitely long enough for...
who's to say?
Well, it also is fun to think about, because what was the civilization like of that time that was involved with the Nephilim and the sons of Cain? And also, what kind of civilization did they have? Were they technologically advanced? Look how long it's taken us to get the internet. That was 2,000 years. Well, no, that's wrong. But it's taken us from the Roman Empire to now. If you think about that in a 2,000-year range, a lot has happened that's been recorded throughout history. But what wasn't recorded? What was lost back in the day? Just makes me think. So You got anything on that?
No.
No?
I was just, I mentioned the calculations have been done because they have been done. So if ever you want to scratch that curious itch, like of who was around for who and all that, according to the information found in the Bible.
Yeah.
It's already been all
done.
calculated.
Okay.
So you can find it.
I need to go listen to some more Chuck Missler, and you need to go listen to some more Timmy Alberino, because I think you've been listening to a ton of him. No, I'm joking. Have you?
I've listened to
Timothy Alberino? Because what you were telling me about Kane sounds like what he would talk about, like, a lot.
Yeah, I don't know.
Where did you
I've
hear
listened
all
to
that?
like 3 or 4
Of his, like,
podcasts of
interviews?
his.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But anyway, let's move on. If you had to live in a movie, what movie would you live in, David?
A movie?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know.
X-Men. That way there'd be mutants. I don't know.
Let's see.
What would be cool but also safe? Jurassic Park sounds kind of interesting, but that might be really dangerous. You could also pick a true, like, based on a real story movie and just live in the real world.
What movie would I
what
want to
movie
live
would you
in?
want to live in? I got it. Blazing Saddles. Which is, if you look at it through a certain lens, it's kind of the real world anyway, especially in the ending. So, you know, I have no idea. There's so many to pick from. Okay. Shrek, and then I'll end it there. All right. What do you have any?
Oh.
The Smurfs movie.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have no idea.
Like maybe
Bedazzled, David. Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Why not?
Why not?
Yeah, even though it like contradicts like scripture and everything. I mean, whatever. Oh, then that would be. Oh, then you would have to live in a world with where Jesus is of a different race, David. Oh no.
What?
I'm joking.
All right. Anyway, I don't think I can answer that question.
All right.
That's
Yeah. Would you want to live in the Resident Evil films?
no.
No. Okay.
I'm good on that. I
Okay,
mean,
what's the movie with Final Fantasy Spirits Within? Why not, you know? Okay, I'm just gonna pick Starship Troopers and then we'll go forward. Why not?
why not?
It's in the future. We live now. So
Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe I'd want to live in like some kind of like one of the less unsafe like Studio Ghibli movie worlds.
yeah, that's a good.
Just
that's a good
because,
answer.
you know, like
Yeah, Kiki's Delivery Service.
something idyllic and peaceful and
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Porco Rosso.
Well,
Well,
that's a little less
that's
idyllic.
That's also got a lot of baggage. He's a pig, so why?
Yeah, like
You know?
I said, a little less idyllic.
Okay, I'm gonna go Kiki's Delivery Service. That'll be my pick.
Yeah, that's a great.
Yeah, let's do that.
Or that or Totoro.
Totoro's nice.
Yeah.
So
No. Yeah.
yeah. Well, speaking of Totoro, what illegal animal would you have as a pet?
Peanut the squirrel.
Yeah, I'd go with a flying squirrel. I think that would be fun to have. I just need a really large ceiling, a large enough space above my head for it to fly around. All right, next one. Did we really land on the moon, David?
Short answer, yes.
Yeah, short answer, yes.
Long answer, there's
Questions.
I mean,
well,
there's I wouldn't say there's questions.
I try to avoid that part of Twitter when I go on there,
Yeah.
especially when they recommend videos like that. I'm like,
I wouldn't say there's questions so much as just there's people's natural inclination, which I totally understand.
Totally.
To question authority.
Yeah, totally. I feel like there's a time and place for all of that. And I don't know if necessarily the moon landing is, I mean, you definitely want to question authority. Why not? But I just think it's funny how people just go so deep down that hole.
Yeah.
Like, oh, President Nixon, he called him on the phone. You can't get a telephone pole out in the moon. Really, guys?
Ever heard of a radio?
Ever heard of a radio? Ever heard of like
a radio?
What? Like, come on, you guys are. Oh God. So
yeah. So
there's some dumb stuff that involves.
Yeah, the things like flat Earth, things like fake moon landing stuff. It's like it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like I totally get people wanting to disbelieve like what are perceived as like authority figures and what are perceived as like official sources of information. I get that, believe me. But like disbelieving the moon landing or believing like the Earth is flat, stuff like that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
And also it doesn't make any sense because, in terms of it being fake, because we went to the moon later on. Other countries did as well. So like, what's going on? Why are there questions? I don't know. Maybe I'm just ignorant on the topic of anti-moon landing theory, but I think we did. That's my answer. Yes, we did. So, are birds real, David?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I think some of them are fake. They're fakers. Next question. What is the source to David's musical powers? Wow, I did not know that was going to be in here. Okay. Well, I would answer that question by saying that he is a spiritual gift of creativity. Then, you know what they say when you make music and when you play music, it's one of the most hardest things for the brain to do ever, like in your life. That's one of the most hardest things for a brain to, like a human brain to comprehend, is to create music. And David, I feel like you got a brain that's a lot bigger than mine, and you can actually play an instrument. Man, I'm getting a little tired, but yeah, I think you got a nice spiritual gift. What do you think?
I'm getting a little tired. I was gonna come up with a really flippant, snarky answer, but it didn't come to me. But yeah, it's one of those things. Like, yeah, it's just something that God put in me. Like, he created all of us with certain gifts and abilities, and once you find out what those are, and you're able to use those to basically advance the kingdom, it's quite the honor.
Yeah. All right, next one. Is it true that Snarp Fangle accepts funds from USAID? I can resoundingly say, no, we don't, because they've never approached me, and I would say no anyway.
Well, you may not accept funds from USAID.
David?
But me, on the other hand.
What? Oh, I see what's going on here. I'll handle the audio, Jake. You take care of the video side of things. All right, next question. Are we living in a simulation?
Yeah, it's called real life.
I have the same answer. All right, what is the difference between sin and iniquities? I honestly, and I feel bad, but I honestly don't remember and don't know. Honestly. I guess I'll pass it over to you, David, but iniquities. God, it's been so long since I've seen that word and associated with the Bible, which I feel bad about saying. But one is one you definitely cause in yourself. Maybe the other one could be the effects that sin has on you. I don't know. Or maybe iniquities are our iniquities of being human. I don't know. That's all I really have. But David's researching some things at the moment.
Let me.
Yeah, he's looking.
I want to get into. I'm still scrolling through the Old Testament. I'm trying to get to the New Testament because I want to contrast it with with a specific word.
Okay.
So,
because iniquities, isn't that from a certain translation, or is that in multiple translations? Or, well, that's kind of a broad question, but Is it only in King James? Or is it in the others as well?
Well, let's see.
Because I know, like, for example, the verse in King James where it says, I have mansions for you in heaven, that's specifically just in King James. There's no other translation that I can think of that has that term mansions in it. And we all know King James isn't exactly super incredibly, I would say, completely accurate to the Greek and the Hebrew translation. So, anyway, that's just an example. But iniquities, that might be just referring to something different.
Well, yeah, iniquity is in more than just the King James, but it's definitely in the King James more than it is in modern translations, just because iniquity is kind of a more old-fashioned word. The idea, I did just a quick word search of iniquity in the King James and the New Testament and what Greek words were associated with it. And it seems to be that there's a few different words, but it seems to be they all have to do with the idea of law breaking or lawlessness. And then the word sin in the New Testament is most often represented by the word hamartia, which specifically means to miss the mark or to fall short of a standard.
That sounds very Greek, that word. Hamartia?
Hamartia.
Okay.
Huh. So the idea of that word, which is the most, I can't remember if it's the only Greek word that's rendered sin, but it's by far the most common one. The idea of that word is that there is a target that you're shooting for, like if you're an archer, and you missed it. So the idea of sin in the sense of the Greek word of that particular Greek word is that there's a standard and you fell short of it.
Okay. Gotcha. And then sin.
And then iniquity.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry.
Seems to be iniquity. There's a couple different words that I found just from a quick search that are rendered iniquity in the King James, and they're different words, but they all seem to kind of revolve around the same general idea of lawlessness or breaking the law. So
interesting. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there then. I think we'll come back to that next time, Thad. We have you on, Thad, if you're listening. So, all right, 19, getting a little lighter. What was the best pop band in the 90s? Ooh. Michael W. Smith.
Best pop band in the 90s?
The 90s. Okay, Sobia, tell us through the ether. Or Angela. Maybe Angie will let us know.
That's a hard question because
Enya. No, she's not pop.
The stuff from the 90s that I like is not pop.
It's not pop. Yeah. So let's just settle it by just saying Smash Mouth, David.
Gonna go with no, but sure, why not?
If you ever heard of Walking on the Sun, the Southern folk version, if you go and type that in, like Southern version of Walking on the Sun, or
yes,
the folk version.
I've heard it.
Legit one of the best reimaginings of a song. Legit. So good.
It's a little cringy for me.
Yeah, I understand, but it's pretty good. Anyway, you got to be in the right headspace for it. And for some reason that day I was, so yeah. Anyway, what does the beast of the land and the beast of the sea represent? In the book of Revelation, I was always confused by this aspect of Revelation where there was the beast of that came out of the sea, and then there's the beast that's in the land. I'm guessing one of them is the devil. And the other one, I've been doing research on Revelation the last year as well, so I don't remember. Again, I'm gonna have to go watch some Chuckle Missler sermons on YouTube. But Yeah, it's interesting how it says two beasts. And then, well, wait, one of the Antichrist, David? Or is that totally separate? Because in Revelation, they talk about a false prophet in the city of Babylon. And I think that is the Antichrist.
Okay. So the beast out of the sea is, so where this, I mean, there's a million different ways
you can.
There's a little
nerdy biblical talk here.
Okay, there's a million different ways you could interpret the book of Revelation. But if you're looking at it through what's kind of most common in evangelical Christianity, you're like the more common interpretations of it. The first beast represents the Antichrist, and then the second beast represents the false prophet, who
that was it.
Basically speaks and acts on behalf of the Antichrist.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha. That was it. All right, next. Why did the CIA write the song Winds of Change by the Scorpions in 1990? Well, Thad, I think we know what your favorite pop band of the 90s was.
The Scorpions were not a 90s band.
I know. I'm just...
But anyway, that's the thing I Googled, and I learned something.
Okay, gotcha.
That I didn't know about. There is actually a conspiracy theory out there that the CIA wrote Winds of Change, the song, to basically provide the sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, to destabilize the Soviet Union.
Huh. I've never heard of this at all.
So
basically, very interesting.
So do you know what the band Scorpions is?
I'll be honest, I don't.
Scorpions is the band that wrote Rock You Like a Hurricane.
Oh, okay.
So they're a German band, like a German hard rock band. But they wrote Winds of Change was like was kind of like a softer sort of like a ballad that they wrote, and it was essentially about the situation. It was essentially about the situation that had come about as a result of the Cold War. The song is like basically kind of like about people living in Soviet countries, or living in Russia, or living in Soviet controlled territories, who are, yearning for freedom, and the winds of change that the song are referring to is the sort of the socio-political climate of the time that eventually led to the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union. And so there's actually a conspiracy theory out there, and somebody actually did even a documentary series about it too.
Really?
There is actually a conspiracy theory out there that in order to ensure that the Soviet Union fell, the CIA actually wrote this song and made sure it was like a hit in order to manipulate the political climate or the social climate to essentially influence the culture of people in Soviet controlled territories to to essentially give up on the idea of the Soviet domination, basically. Yeah, it's very strange.
I need to Google some of this stuff. It sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird, bonkers conspiracy theory, but
it's one of those safer ones you could probably explore.
It's actually a legit thing that somebody actually believes, and did I think he even wrote a book on it.
Dang. Well, people also, devil's advocate, also wrote books about the fake moon landing, apparently.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just saying, I think that sounds really cool. I do want to bring up really quick, there's a YouTube channel called FD Signifier who talks about music a lot. And he has a video called exposing hip hop's original industry plants. Kinda. And it was randomly recommended to me one day as I was watching Dark Souls videos, of all things. And I watched it. And even though he doesn't really get into like industry plants and quote, and if it's a true thing or not, he explores the concept and does have an example that's absolutely an industry plant, kinda. So I'd recommend it. FD Signifier, exposing hip hop's original industry plants, kinda. Go look that video up. It's really interesting. It is an hour long. It's kind of long, but it's a fun watch. So I would recommend that. All right. David, here we go. Is David Hasselhoff the next president of the United States? No.
He's got to wait his turn after J.D. Vance.
Dude, Hasselhoff will be like in his 70s at that point. So, dang. Anyway, what was the thorn in Apostle Paul's flesh? Well, if you read the memes online, it was SpongeBob in the prison with him. That's probably what I would say.
No. So
I know, I'm joking.
A lot of people believe that the thorn in Paul's flesh that he talks about was sickness, like a disease of some kind. And so there's this idea that God allowed Satan to put some kind of disease on him that he cried out for healing from, but God said no. So that Paul wouldn't get too big for his britches. I personally think that it wasn't a disease, but that it was that it was a messenger from Satan, as it actually uses those words in the text. So I believe it was the attacks that he was facing, the spiritual attacks that he was facing, in opposition to all of the good he was doing in his ministry.
That's pretty interesting. I want to do more research of the significance of that, as well as the significance of Peter, James, and John going up to Mount Hermon. I feel like there's a big deep dive you could do with those three of why they were there. I mean, Jesus picked them, obviously.
Well, they were the inner circle.
Inner circle, yeah. But like, there's a lot you could go into it, but I want to save it for later. I think that'd be fun. So anyway, next one. Is The Simpsons a psyop? Kinda is what I would say. I feel like the creator of The Simpsons and the writers in the writer's room, they started in the 90s. I feel like
They started in the 80s.
Oh, so was it 80s? I don't watch Simpsons, so I don't know.
They started in like 88 or 87.
Dang.
I want to say, let me look that up just to make sure.
Interesting. Well,
they actually started off, The Simpsons actually came from short, like,
David,
programs that were on the Tracy Ullman show, if you can believe it.
Okay, I remember hearing something about that. But David, we don't need to deep dive into this.
So the first episode of The Simpsons, I'm looking at
okay, I'm just kidding.
The first episode of The Simpsons is actually a Christmas episode.
Interesting.
1989.
89. Interesting. Well, I think over the years,
December 17th, 1989. So that's like,
I feel like
2 months after I was born.
If Simpsons is a psyop, then South Park is absolutely not a psyop. like confirmed not a psyop. Because South Park, if it was, they hide it incredibly well. Like incredibly well. However, it is funny if you deep dive into like what the Simpsons predict and what's come true. I would guess. I have no idea.
I mean, they're a psyop in the sense that
they suck.
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's why.
Yeah, it used to be quite funny. And now it is not. It is not nearly as funny now. Same with Family Guy.
Yeah,
I was an enjoyer of Family Guy back in the day.
There's some great first episodes.
But yeah, occasionally I'll happen to catch a clip of like a modern Family Guy episode. And I'm just like, what is this?
There has been some funny modern stuff I see clipped out every once in a while that is genuinely gives me a good laugh. But anyway, moving on. Speaking of deep, how did sin birth in Lucifer's heart in heaven? Man, that's one heck of a question. Sin birth in Lucifer's heart while in heaven.
Well, if you look in Ezekiel, where he has the lament over the king of Tyre, which many people believe is also talking about the fall of Satan. It mentions that his downfall was his own beauty, essentially. Because if you read that, and if you sort of read that into the text, that interpretation, that what it's actually, the lament is for the king of Tyre for that time, but in terms of like an eternal perspective, it was a lament over the fall of Satan. If you read it with that interpretation in mind, then you get the idea that Satan was almost like the crown jewel of the angels. Like he was the best and brightest of all of them.
Wasn't he also like the leader of like worship or something?
Well, people say that, but that people are pulling.
They're pulling from different places.
Well, they're pulling from that, but they're like grasping at like one specific, like a couple words that mention like pipes, basically. And they think it has to do with music, so they extrapolate from that Satan must have been in charge of worship in heaven. And it's like, that's one reason I could see why people don't like multiple translations of the Bible, because it does get super confusing. Like we mentioned with mansions being in King James, but none of the other versions. Yeah, well,
strange.
Yeah, this is less about translations.
Less, I know.
Less about translations and more about people just kind of like hitting on like a couple of words and then just like going off with a wild tangent off of there, basically. So that's where that idea comes from. But yeah, essentially, but you do kind of get the idea if you're looking at it with the perspective that he's talking about Satan. You do kind of get the idea that Satan was like, the best and brightest of the angels, that he had a special place nearer to the throne of God, that was nearer to the throne of God than the other angels did. And so there's the idea in there specifically that basically he looked upon his own beauty, his own favored position, and from that, pride began to grow.
Which is a sin. Well, we can talk about this for a long time, but I think it's just interesting to imagine. So anyway, all right, next. We're almost done. Why did the Kremlin nominate Snarp Fangle as Putin's #1 podcast?
Well, I mean...
Well, Thad, how do you know?
When you've got a viewer as illustrious as Vladimir Putin, he's
one of the 50 views we get a week.
Things are gonna happen.
Yeah, so that's your answer, Thad. What is the difference between God's wrath and his discipline? Well, I think we've actually brought up quite a few examples of discipline. I think it's argued that Paul's thorn in the side could be interpreted as that. I feel like you could also interpret it. I think you interpret a lot of things of Paul's journey as discipline, in fact, and to change. Or was him being blind God's wrath, and then it taught him a lesson? Or is that just kind of making it a little gray there?
Well, if we take it back to sort of the basic principles of the law. So one of the, I believe it's in Proverbs, where the writer basically implores people to not you've heard the phrase spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yep.
So I believe it's in Proverbs, the writer actually implores people to not spare the rod from their children, because discipline is, because of the value of discipline and the necessary role it plays in shaping good character. So the Bible also talks about God disciplining those whom he loves.
Yeah.
So
I mean, just think of the Israelites and the leaders thereof.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit different.
Is that a little different? Okay.
Because there's definitely some wrath poured out there as well.
At church on Sunday, I was thinking randomly of when Nick was talking about the soul, body, and spirit. I was randomly thinking of when Moses hit the rock and nothing came out, and he's like, and then he hits it again, and then water spews out.
No.
No? Is it twice? He strikes the rock twice.
Well, he strikes the rock.
Yeah,
and then
I thought
water
it was twice.
He strikes the rock, and then water comes out. He was told to touch the rock with his staff, and water would come out.
Yeah, but he struck it instead.
He was pissed off.
Yeah, he was
so
mad.
he hit the rock.
And now I thought when he strikes it the first time, it doesn't happen, and then he does it again, and then it happens. That's what I thought it was.
Well, I mean,
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, I don't think it might have recorded the detail of him striking the rock twice, but that wasn't the point of the story. There wasn't, the point of the story was that he was told, touch the rock with your staff and water will come out of it.
So Numbers 20:11.
But instead he was really pissed off and he hit the rock, and water still came out of it, but he was later disciplined.
Oh God!
For his little outburst.
God, this website by default uses the message version. Let me keep going to a different version. Let me just go to King James. 20:11. Let's see. Then Moses and Aaron, this is 10. Then Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock, and he said unto them, "Hear now, ye rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock?" And Moses lifted his hand, this is King James, by the way, and with his rod he smote the rock twice, and the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also. And then I guess I'll read 12. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, because ye believed me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel. Therefore ye shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. This is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with the Lord, and he was sanctified in them. So he did strike it twice. But I think it says beforehand.
Oh, no, never mind. It's not... he didn't tell them to
it's earlier
touch the rock. He told them to speak to the rock.
Oh.
He told them to speak to the rock. So he told them, it's in verse 8.
8. Yeah, I'm reading it.
Take the staff, you and your brother Aaron assemble the congregation and speak to the rock before their eyes, that it shall yield its water. So you shall bring water for them out of the rock, and have the congregation and their livestock drink. And Moses was ticked off, so he smacked the rock with his staff instead.
He must have either been super dyslexic, which makes me question the 10 Commandments, or he was just mad. So he was probably just mad. I was joking, by the way, in the first part. Moses the dyslexic. What a dyslexic. I can't believe him.
Well, he did have a stutter.
That's true. Oh, maybe
he couldn't.
My theory's correct.
He had a stutter or a speech impediment or something that prevented him from being able to speak to people effectively, which is why Aaron had to speak for him when he went before Pharaoh.
Okay. That was a cool little deep dive. All right, 20. Here we go. Define sanctification. Let's do fast with this one. I'm going to say it was the breaking of the veil.
Sanctification?
Yeah. To make something holy.
Sanctification in theological terms is the work over time that happens in us to where our lives become more in line with Christ.
Oh, that's right. It's like a time thing.
So you have justification, which is where we are justified before the Father because of Christ's sacrifice. So we are counted as righteousness. We are imputed with the righteousness of Christ. So that's justification.
Okay.
Then you have sanctification, which is when you walking with God begin to, over time, change the way you live, change the way you think, change the way you act to become who God wants you to be. So it's that daily idea. It's that idea of daily putting off the old man, putting on the new man. That is the process of sanctification. And then that process of sanctification leads to, in eternity, the point at which we reach what's known as glorification, where we'll be finally free of the sinful flesh that we're currently bound to, and will be glorified together with Christ in heaven.
Oh, well, I think that's a lot better than my answer. Thank you, David. Yeah, because I'm like, I don't remember what sanctification is. So I typed in the literal definition. I'm like, to make holy. And I'm like, well, what did Jesus do to make us holy? Well, he died. And I'm like, well, what else happened? Well, the veil. Okay, well, then he broke the veil to make us eventually holy, is where my mind was. So anyway, moving on. Good job, by the way. All right. 2 more questions and then we're finished. Praise the Lord Jesus. Is Donald Trump's hair actually the leader of the Scythian lizard people?
Yeah, that's the one I couldn't figure out.
Yeah, Thad, what are you talking about?
Well, I have no idea.
What is Scythian, not Scythian? Like, what? That doesn't even mean anything either. What are you talking about, Thad? Do you know what the Scythian lizard people are? Do they live in your basement? Do they try to play the Switch when the kids go to sleep? Like, what's happening?
Are the Scythian lizard people with us right now?
Are they with us right now? Are they in the speakers of the desk over there?
Yeah, I don't know. I tried my best, furiously Googling to try and figure out what the heck he might have been talking about. I got nothing.
Is he like, I want to know why it has to do with the hair, because they're like, they blonde lizards or something. Can you imagine a blonde lizard, David?
I mean, maybe the idea that Trump's hair is like some kind of sentient creature that's attached himself to Trump or something. Maybe that's what he was going for.
Yeah, it could be that. Dude, by the way, on Twitter, people are starting to take the clips from the movie The Apprentice, where Sebastian Stan plays Trump, and starting to turn it into like a positive force for Trump. It's really funny. It's real, like those chat edits you'll see. They're starting to do chat edits of The Apprentice. It's really funny.
Oh dear Lord.
And I don't think I'm a fan of it, but it's entertaining to say the least. All right, last question. Number 30. I can't believe this. All right, what is the future vision of Snarp Fangle? And David, I'm going to let you get this one first, and then I'll end it, okay?
I think for me, the future vision of Snarp Fangle is just, I mean, we have some ideas bouncing around, but overall the idea of Snarp Fangle is to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Because a lot of podcasts are about a topic in particular, and Snarp Fangle is not about any particular topic. It's about the conversation. So whatever topic somebody brings or whatever topic we think of to talk about if we don't have a guest, what it boils down to is we're trying to have a good conversation.
Yeah.
And so the future of Snarp Fangle is we're going to do what we can to continue the conversation.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Safe Answer. No, I'm joking. The future vision of Snarp Fangle. Well, when we started it, I would say that the goal of it was to get David and me better at the gifts we already had, such as he's good at audio engineering and audio finagling, and I'm good at video engineering and video finagling. And it's really, that was the idea starting out, and also to get us better in front of a microphone.
I mean, like,
that's one of many versions.
To be honest, like when we started off, it was more like you just came to me one day. He's like, "Hey, David, you want to start a podcast?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?"
And then you had a condition about it, like, "Hey, you're gonna host it, though, right?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I can do that, yeah." And so,
that's what it was. I was cool with being like the co-host of a podcast, but I didn't want to be responsible for the podcast, which is really funny because I ended up being responsible for it anyway.
Yeah, like after I think it was 19 episodes, I was out of the picture for the whole summer, and then you did like I think 8 episodes or 7 episodes, like where you edited it to yourself. You did the thumbnail, did all the audio, and like you usually do. And I was on some of those, but I couldn't finagle my way into editing most of them. So I appreciate your effort, David, and you did really well. And I feel like even if I'm gone this summer, which I probably will, there's going to be some weeks where you're going to have some really good stuff going on. And we're kind of sort of preparing for that as well, because I know that I work on the fire season, and so we're in California here. And so we're trying to make sure that we have stuff lined up for that kind of thing. In terms of also expanding on the future of it, I think it's a good practice to start out with in terms of what I have in my mind. Like, I would love to continue the Snarp Fangle in quotes as it is, and it's my intention right now. But I have some dreams that I've been thinking about and stuff like that I would eventually like to achieve. Just in terms of writing, in terms of working, I would love to. My dream, honestly, I've been thinking about this for the last couple months, is to help manage a game studio. Not necessarily be a creative director or what have you, but to actually help manage the team. And I feel like I could really excel at that like role. But I feel like that's going to be in one season later in my life while I have a family. And then it will end eventually. I'm not saying it'll be like a couple months, but who knows? It might be a year or two. But as of right now, and for the next foreseeable future, I just want to do Snarp Fangle and have that be our thing that we do. I feel like I've had a lot of enjoyment. I've actually overcome a lot of like social anxiety by creating this podcast. A lot of insecurities I have in myself, which I always work on, I'm always working at them. But this podcast really has assisted me with kind of overcoming a lot of that. I don't know if you share any of that, but I would say that it's got me better at talking, even though I'm still a horrible talker and a horrible person of phrase, we'll say. But I would say that overall, I'm happy where we're at, and I'm excited to see where we go, Okay, absolutely confirmed vision thing. We are going to get an RSS feed in the future. I absolutely want to do a Patreon at some point. But we'll see. Well, we're still growing. We're still figuring things out. And there's no promises of any of that right now, but I definitely want to get an RSS feed eventually. That's like the next big goal, I would say. Yeah,
we got some things in the pipeline for sure. RSS feeds, definitely one of them. We do want to branch out in terms of content eventually.
Yeah. The whole thing, and here's the thing, audience, that we're coming into contact with is me and David want to do more, and we would like to, but we also have lives, and we also want to enjoy our lives. And I think a weekly thing is a really nice thing to take some time, work on, and then live our life after that.
Yeah.
Until next Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday come around, where we get together and we either record, edit, and go forward with that.
Yeah, we do want to, try new things, branch out in terms of content. We have some ideas for sure.
Yeah.
But at this point, we're definitely not looking to kickstart our YouTube career or anything like that.
No. It's funny because I've been told that getting to 1,000 subscribers is like the hardest thing to do on YouTube. Like after you get to 1,000, you're pretty much okay. I remember I followed a channel called OK Beast where they did video game essays. And those people went on to go work at Kinda Funny and then eventually Game Informer, which is now defunct. But they started doing video essays and I found them at like 70 subscribers. And then they eventually and I was like, dude, this is an awesome video essay. And then it was like 20 views. And I'm like, what the heck? Or was that 1,000 views? And then they eventually got to 100 and then they got to 1,000. And it was really a long time before they got to there. Like they were sitting at like 300 to 500 for a long ass time. And then they eventually got to 1,000. And after they got to 1,000, literally the next week they got to 2,000. And I'm like, that's interesting. That's weird. I don't get why the algorithm does that, but apparently it does. Our goal is not growth. It's just to have good conversations and to continue them as well. So I'm excited. There's some things that I want to do in the next couple months, especially with video games that I'm excited about. So, and to have some cool new guests on and everything, I think it'll be fun, but I'm very choosy of who I pick, to be quite frank. And, shout out to Frankie, because he was one of the first guests we ever had on besides like Thad and I think the twins and stuff as well. I think he was episode 9, the anime one. And then we did video game music with Lexi. So that was cool. So I definitely want to get Justin back on. It's been forever since we've had him on. I want him. Okay, David, here's the thing. Here's pitch right here. I want him on here. He said it'll be available this March. I want him on here. And I want us to just go crazy and talk about conspiracy theories. I think that'd be a fun one. I think that'd be good. So, but that's all we have for now with this podcast. And so thank you, ladies and gentlemen, so much for all your write-ins, all the time you've took the last year and change to listen to us and to give us feedback and to say what works, what doesn't, and keep it coming. Keep it coming our way. We want to know, we love doing this and we thank you for your support. I know there's only, so many that I know personally that listen to this, but even the people that I don't know that somehow what was it, David? I think it was Nick's episode got like 200 something views randomly. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Whoever you are listening to that, thank you for listening. Because most of the people that I know do some, not most, but anyway, I'm rambling at this moment. So, and I'm tired and I need to go to bed. So anyway, people, thank you people for the people. I love the people. The people are so great. Anyway, and thank you, David, for being just a peachy co-host, as they say,
All right, then.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll bid you adieu. And if you're ever traveling in France and they ask you to what they say in America, tell them this. You tell them to snarp fangle on.
Bye-bye now.